Successor States after the Vijayanagara Empire. Part 1. Introduction and the Rise of Nayaka Kingdoms approx. 250 words I. Introduction. The fall of Vijayanagara and the rise of regionalism. The Vijayanagara Empire, which once unified much of South India under a single political and cultural umbrella, began to fragment following its devastating defeat at the Battle of Talikota in 1565 CE. While the empire continued in a diminished capacity for several decades, its administrative coherence, military supremacy, and centralized power were irreparably damaged. By the mid-17th century, Vijayanagara had effectively ceased to be a dominant power, and its territories fragmented into various regional successor states. These successor states were ruled either by former military governors, Nayakas, ambitious local chieftains, or dynastic descendants of Vijayanagara officials who carved out their own realms. The most prominent of these successor states included Madurai Nayakas Tanjore, Nayakas Ginji Nayakas Kaladi Nayakas Mysore Wodeyars Maratha-controlled regions, Carnatic Nawabs under Mughal patronage. This fragmentation ushered in a new phase in South Indian history, marked by military decentralization, cultural diversification, internal rivalries, and the slow but steady infiltration of European colonial powers. 2. The Nayaka system, foundation of successor states. The Nayaka system, developed under the Vijayanagara rulers, especially during the reign of Krishna-devaraya, laid the groundwork for the rise of independent regional kingdoms. In this system, powerful commanders or nobles were granted land, amaram, in exchange for military support. Over time, as central authority weakened, these Nayakas consolidated their own power. By the late 17th century, many Nayakas had stopped acknowledging Vijayanagara sovereignty and began ruling independently. Their courts, militaries, and cultures flourished, creating rich legacies that still influence South Indian culture today. 3rd. Madurai Nayaka Kingdom, 1559–1736. Origins and formation. After the Battle of Talikota, the region of Madurai came under the rule of Viswanatha Nayaka, a military commander under the Vijayanagara Empire. He established an independent kingdom centered in Madurai in 1559, and his successors ruled the region for nearly 2 centuries. B. Governance and administration. Viswanatha Nayaka and his successors developed a feudal military structure, similar to Vijayanagara, but more regionally adapted. Local chieftains were maintained under strict control, and village-level administration became more efficient. They also implemented a robust taxation system, which allowed for sustained economic growth. C. Cultural contributions. The Madurai Nayakas were great patrons of art, literature, music, and temple architecture. The Meenakshi Temple in Madurai was extensively expanded during this period, with towering gopurams and intricate sculptures. Prominent rulers like Tirumala Nayaka R. 1623–1659 initiated grand architectural projects and supported Tamil and Telugu literature. The Nayaka court became a melting pot of Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and Sanskrit traditions. D. Decline and fall. Internal strife, court conspiracies, and the growing power of the Carnatic Nawabs and Marathas led to the gradual weakening of the Madurai Nayakas. By 1736, the kingdom was annexed by the Arcot Nawab, marking the end of Madurai's independent rule. Before, Tanjore Nayaka Kingdom, 1532–1674. Formation and independence. Tanjore, a culturally rich and agriculturally fertile region, became independent under Savapa Nayaka around 1532. He was originally a Vijayanagara governor who later asserted full independence. B. Political landscape. The Nayakas of Tanjore had a structured military and administrative system, similar to Madurai's cultural renaissance. The Tanjore court became a major center of Carnatic music, Bharatanatyam dance, and Sanskrit scholarship. Grand temples such as the Brihadisvara temple were maintained and enhanced. The Nayakas encouraged multilingual literature, especially in Tamil and Telugu. Art flourished, especially Tanjore painting, which became globally recognized in later centuries. D. Decline and Maratha takeover. Tanjore Nayaka rule came to an end in 1674, when Venkoji Ikoji, the half-brother of Maratha King Shivaji, invaded and established the Tanjore Maratha kingdom, a new chapter in the region's history. V. Jinji Nayakas 1526-1649, a strategic importance. Jinji Senji, located in present-day Tamil Nadu, was a fort city of immense strategic importance. Initially under Vijayanagara control, it came under the independent rule of Nayakas like Krishnappa Nayaka and his successors. B. Military architecture. Jinji Fort, often called the Troy of the East, was heavily fortified and expanded during Nayaka rule. It played a key role in resisting invasions by the Bijapur Sultanate, Marathas, and Mughals. C. Multicultural court. Though smaller in size, the Jinji Nayaka court was diverse, with influences from Telugu, Kannada, Tamil, and even Islamic traditions due to interactions with Deccan sultanates. D. Fall to Bijapur and Mughal conquest. By the 1640s, the Nayakas of Jinji lost control due to internal feuds and pressure from the Bijapur Sultanate. The fort eventually fell to the Mughals in 1698, during Aurangzeb's Deccan campaign. 6. Kaladi Nayakas of Ikari, 1499-1763, a rise and autonomy. The Kaladi Nayakas, also known as the Nayakas of Ikari, emerged in coastal Karnataka around 1499. Initially loyal to Vijayanagara, they became fully independent in the 17th century. B. Key rulers, Shivappa Nayaka, R. 1645-1660, is often hailed as the greatest Kaladi ruler. He reorganized the administrative system, expanded the territory, and resisted external threats. Introduced the famous Shivappa Nayaka revenue system, known for its fairness and efficiency. C. Cultural and religious harmony. Kaladi rulers supported Shaivism, Vaishnavism, and Jainism, along with building Hindu temples and supporting missionaries and local Christian communities. D. Resistance against Mughals and decline. Kaladi Nayakas resisted Mughal encroachment under Aurangzeb. However, by the mid-18th century, the Kaladi kingdom was annexed by the expanding Mysore kingdom, marking the end of another Vijayanagara successor state. 7th. Common characteristics of the Nayaka states. Despite geographic diversity, the Nayaka successor kingdoms shared several features. Feudal militarism. Decentralized armies maintained through loyalty-based vassalage. Temple-centered cities. Cities grew around large temples which were economic, political, and cultural hubs. Multilingual culture. Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and Sanskrit coexisted in literature and administration. Autonomy with Vijayanagara legacy. While they claimed independence, they often honored Vijayanagara traditions and coinage. 8. Conclusion. The Nayaka kingdoms that rose after the fall of Vijayanagara not only preserved much of its administrative and cultural legacy, but also set the stage for new regional identities to develop. Their courts became laboratories of linguistic integration, temple construction, classical art, and political experiment. Though most of them eventually succumbed to larger powers like the Marathas, Mughals, or British, they left behind enduring legacies that continue to define South Indian society and culture. Part 2. The Rise of the Kingdom of Mysore. Approx. 250 words. I. Origins and Early History. The Kingdom of Mysore traces its origins to the 14th century, around the time when the Vijayanagara Empire was consolidating power in South India. The ruling family, the Wodeyars, were originally feudatories under the Vijayanagara kings. They controlled a small principality centered in Mysore, and paid tribute to the imperial court at Hampi. With the collapse of Vijayanagara authority following the Battle of Talikota in 1565 and the weakening of central power, the Wodeyars began asserting increasing autonomy. 2. Establishment of an independent kingdom. In 1610 CE, Raja Wodeyars declared independence from Vijayanagara and moved the capital from Mysuru to Srirangapatna, a strategic island fort on the Kaveri River. This event is considered the foundation of an independent kingdom of Mysore. Under Raja Wodeyars and his successors, Mysore gradually expanded its territory through strategic marriages, military campaigns, and administrative reforms. The kingdom maintained a Hindu identity while balancing relationships with neighboring Islamic sultanates, Maratha states, and eventually, the Mughals. 3rd. Political expansion and regional strategy. A. Growth in the 17th century. Between 1610 and 1700, Mysore grew from a minor principality to a mid-sized kingdom in South India. Its rulers carefully avoided direct confrontation with larger powers, instead focusing on internal consolidation and expanding through local conflicts. B. Key rulers. Kantirawa Narasaraja Prang 1638-1659. He modernized the army, issued the first Mysore coinage, and established Mysore's diplomatic and military prestige. Chika Devaraja Wodeyar R. 1603-704. Considered one of the most capable early rulers, he reorganized the administration, strengthened revenue systems, built alliances, and resisted Mughal encroachment. C. Relations with Nayaka and Maratha powers. But cultural and religious patronage. The Wodeyar kings were devout Vaishnavites and patrons of temple construction, music, literature, and classical dance. They supported Sanskrit and Kannada scholarship, as well as Tamil works in the southern parts of their territory. Temples and art. Lavish contributions to temples such as Chamundeshwari Temple and Sri Rangapatna's Ranganathaswamy Temple. Literature. Support for Kannada poets and court historians. Music and dance encouraged the development of Carnatic music traditions and sponsored temple dances. The military and administrative organization. A. Military evolution. Initially dependent on traditional feudal levies, Mysore's military was gradually modernized. Under Chika Devaraja Wodeyar, the state developed a more standing army supported by systematic revenue collection. Use of cavalry, infantry, and fortified strongholds. Military service was often rewarded with land grants, Amaram system. Local chieftains, palagars, were integrated into the state's military apparatus. B. Revenue and administration. Chika Devaraja introduced a centralized taxation system, recorded in the Chika Devaraja Vani, a set of administrative guidelines. Key features: direct tax collection in royal lands, appointment of trained officials for revenue and justice, codified legal processes for civil and religious disputes. Kanan Mysore under Mughal shadow. Although Mysore remained nominally independent, it was not immune to the northern powers. During Aurangzeb's Deccan campaigns, Mysore carefully navigated the threat of Mughal expansion by offering limited cooperation without becoming a full vassal. The political vacuum left by weakening Mughal control in the 18th century gave Mysore more room to expand, setting the stage for a new era of leadership under Haider Ali and Tipu Sultan. 7. Rise of Haider Ali, 1720-1782. A. Origins and ascent. Haider Ali, born around 1720, rose through the ranks of the Mysore military due to his tactical brilliance. By the 1740s, he commanded large portions of the army and was instrumental in several victories. In 1761, Haider Ali assumed de facto control of Mysore, sidelining the Wodeyar monarch, who remained a symbolic figurehead. B. Military modernization. Haider Ali modernized Mysore's army based on European models, reorganized into disciplined infantry, trained by French officers, introduced rocketry. Mysorean rockets became feared weapons, established state factories for weapons and ammunition. C. Expansionist policies. Under Haider Ali, Mysore expanded into Malabar Coast Coimbatore, parts of modern-day Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Andhra Pradesh. Haider Ali also clashed with the Marathas, British East India Company, and the Carnatic Nawabs in a series of Anglo-Mysore wars. B8. Rule of Tipu Sultan, 1782-1799. A. Accession and ambitions. After Haider Ali's death in 1782, his son Tipu Sultan assumed power. Known as the Tiger of Mysore, Tipu was a dynamic ruler who continued his father's legacy of military innovation and expansion. B. Reforms and governance. Tipu Sultan initiated wide-ranging reforms in administration, centralized state control, and efficient bureaucracy. Economy. Established state monopolies, improved irrigation, and promoted sericulture. Coinage. Issued distinctive coinage with Islamic inscriptions. Science and technology. Encouraged scientific methods and foreign expertise. C. Foreign alliances and diplomacy. Tipu sought to resist British expansion by aligning with France, even sent envoys to Napoleon, engaging with the Ottoman Empire, building fortifications and modernizing defense. D. Anglo-Mysore Wars. Tipu Sultan fought 4 major wars against the British. 1. First Anglo-Mysore War, 1767–1769, Mysore victory under Haider Ali. 2. Second War, 1780–1784, continued resistance under Haider and Tipu. 3. Third War, 1790–1792, defeat, forced to cede territory and pay heavy tribute. 4. Fourth War, 1799, Tipu killed in battle, Mysore fell to British forces. 9. Post-Tipu Mysore and British takeover. After Tipu Sultan's death, the British restored the Wodeyars to the throne but placed them under British suzerainty. Mysore became a princely state within the British Raj framework. The Wodeyars continued to rule with limited autonomy. Mysore remained a center for education, administration, and public works under British supervision. X. Cultural and historical legacy. The Kingdom of Mysore left a rich and multifaceted legacy. Military innovation, pioneered early rocketry and modern infantry tactics. Economic development, trade, industry, and agrarian reforms. Art and culture, music, dance, temple construction, and patronage of science. Resistance to colonialism, symbolized by Tipu Sultan's heroic resistance. Conclusion. The Kingdom of Mysore was among the most influential successor states to the Vijayanagara Empire. Starting as a small feudatory under Vijayanagara rule, it evolved into a powerful and sophisticated kingdom. The Wodeyars preserved and expanded upon the cultural traditions of Vijayanagara, while Haider Ali and Tipu Sultan transformed Mysore into a formidable military and political power. Though Mysore eventually fell to British domination, it stood as a bulwark of independence in South India for centuries, leaving behind enduring contributions in governance, warfare, art, and resistance. Part 3. The Maratha influence in southern India and the Tanjore Maratha Kingdom. Approx. 2,150 words. I. Introduction. Maratha expansion post-Vijayanagara. With the decline of the Vijayanagara Empire, a power vacuum emerged in South India, particularly in the Tamil and Telugu-speaking regions. Among the new powers that expanded into this space were the Marathas, who by the late 17th century had begun pushing southward from Maharashtra, bringing with them their distinct culture, military strategies, and administrative systems. A pivotal moment came when the Tanjore Maratha Kingdom was established in 1674 CE by Ekoji Venkoji, the half-brother of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, founder of the Maratha Empire. Political background: fall of the Nayaks of Tanjore. The city of Tanjore, had been under the rule of the Tanjore Nayaks, who were formerly governors under Vijayanagara, but had declared independence following the empire's decline. By the late 17th century, internal strife and succession disputes weakened the Nayak administration. Amidst this turmoil, the Bijapur Sultanate, then a Maratha ally, dispatched Ekoji, a Maratha commander, to intervene in the region. Seizing the opportunity, Ekoji established Maratha rule in Tanjore in 1674, founding the Bhonsles dynasty of Tanjore. The third, Ekoji I and the foundation of the Maratha kingdom in the south. Ekoji I Bhonsles, also known as Venkoji, was appointed to govern the region after defeating the remnants of the Nayaka regime. Unlike his brother Shivaji, who was primarily focused on the Deccan and Western Ghats, Ekoji laid the foundation of an independent Maratha kingdom in Tamil Nadu. Language policy. Ekoji supported Sanskrit, Marathi, and Tamil, encouraging linguistic diversity in court affairs. Religious patronage. He supported both Shaivism and Vaishnavism, strengthening ties with local religious communities. Administration. Adopted a blend of Maratha and South Indian administrative models. Successors and political consolidation. A. Shahuji, Fir, R. 1684–1712. Ekoji's son Shahuji III significantly expanded and stabilized the kingdom. Patron of Tamil literature, Sanskrit drama, and Marathi poetry. Built temples and strengthened the cultural identity of Tanjore. maintained a delicate balance between loyalty to the Maratha Empire and asserting independence in the south. B. Sirfoji I and Tuljaji I, later kings like Sirfoji I, R. 1712 and 1728, and Tuljaji R. 1738 to 1787, continued strengthening the state, though with mixed success due to increasing British and Carnatic influence, fought defensive wars against the Nawabs of Arcot and incursions by the British East India Company, attempted reforms in taxation, education, and diplomacy, v. administration and revenue system. The Tanjore Marathas built a centralized administration, influenced by both Deccan Maratha systems and the South Indian Nayaka structures. Deshmukhs and polygars were integrated into the tax structure, employed a network of village accountants and revenue collectors. Cultivation of the fertile Kaveri Delta remained the economic backbone. 6. Cultural renaissance under Tanjore Marathas. Tanjore became a hub of multilingual scholarship, especially in Marathi court poetry and historical chronicles, Tamil devotional literature, Sanskrit religious texts and plays. Notable scholars and poets were supported by the court, including Kavi Kalamegam, Tamil, Ramabhadra Dikshita, Sanskrit. Several Marathi poets chronicling royal achievements. B. Music and dance. The Maratha kings nurtured Carnatic music, providing patronage to composers such as Muthuswami Dikshitar Shama Sastri, Tyagaraja, collectively known as the Trinity of Carnatic music. Court performances of Bharatanatyam flourished under royal support. See Sarasvati Mahal Library. Perhaps the greatest cultural contribution of the Tanjore Maratha rulers is the Sarasvati Mahal Library, one of the oldest and richest manuscript libraries in Asia. Contains over 50,000 manuscripts in Sanskrit, Tamil, Marathi, Telugu, Persian, and Urdu. Features rare palm leaf manuscripts and painted folios. Established by the Nayaks but expanded greatly by the Marathas. 7th. Foreign relations and European encounters. With the arrival of the Portuguese, Dutch, French, and British in Tamil Nadu, the Tanjore Marathas had to engage in diplomacy and conflict with European powers. A. European factories. Dutch at Nagapattinam, British at Cuddalore and Fort St. George, French at Pondicherry. Tanjore sometimes allied with or opposed these powers based on regional politics. B. Conflicts with the Nawabs of Arcot. The Nawabs of the Carnatic, backed by the British, increasingly tried to exert influence over Tanjore, resulting in border skirmishes, temporary occupations, political meddling by European trading companies. 8. Decline and British takeover. By the late 18th century, the Tanjore Maratha kingdom was weakened by internal decay, economic stress, and external threats. The British East India Company increased its influence by playing rivals against one another and offering protection. In 1798, after the death of Tuljaji II, the British deposed the ruling king and annexed parts of the kingdom under the doctrine of Lapse and subsidiary alliance system. However, a symbolic Maratha ruler, Sirfoji II, was allowed to rule under British supervision. 9. Sirfoji II, scholar king under colonial rule. Sirfoji II, R. 1798-1832, is remembered as a brilliant intellectual, administrator, and visionary reformer. Traveled extensively and studied European science and medicine. Modernized the Sarasvati Mahal Library, introducing printing presses, astronomical instruments, and educational curricula. Built hospitals, observatories, and canals. Maintained correspondence with global scholars. Despite being under British control, Sirfoji II preserved Maratha pride and intellectual independence through knowledge and culture. X. Legacy of the Tanjore Maratha Kingdom. The Tanjore Maratha Kingdom remains one of the most culturally significant successor states of the Vijayanagara era. Its impact includes fusion of Maratha and Tamil traditions, major contributions to Carnatic music, classical dance and literature, preservation of Indian manuscripts and history through the Sarasvati Mahal Library, representation of Maratha expansion into the Deep South. Though politically overshadowed by larger powers like the Carnatic Nawabs and British Empire, The Bhonsles dynasty of Tanjore succeeded in building a refined court culture, rich scholarly tradition, and resilient administrative system. 17. Conclusion. The Maratha influence in southern India, particularly through the establishment of the Tanjore Maratha kingdom, represents a unique blend of northern martial traditions and southern cultural finesse. It played a vital role in preserving South Indian art, music, and literature during a period of foreign encroachment and political upheaval. The kingdom's legacy continues in the arts, education, and historical records it left behind, marking it as a luminous chapter in the history of post-Vijayanagara South India. Part 4. The Nawabs of Arcot and the Carnatic State Approx. 250 words. Introduction. The rise of the Nawabs of Arcot. Following the decline of the Vijayanagara Empire, the eastern Tamil region, particularly the Carnatic region, became a strategic zone for emerging powers. By the early 18th century, the Nawabs of Arcot, also known as the Carnatic Nawabs, rose to prominence under the nominal authority of the Mughal Empire. Their rule laid the foundation for major political, cultural, and economic shifts in Tamil Nadu, especially as European trading companies increased their presence. The establishment of the Arcot state, Mughal appointments and foundations. The Mughals, having overrun parts of the Deccan under Aurangzeb, appointed Zulfikar Khan as the first Mughal governor of the Carnatic region in the late 17th century. Eventually, Sadatullah Khan Haider, 1710-1732, declared himself the Nawab of Arcot, making Arcot the political capital of the Carnatic. Arcot as a capital. The region included Chengalpattu, Trichy, Tanjore, and Madurai, expanding the Nawab's influence over former Nayak and Maratha territories. Third, political structure and governance. The Nawabs maintained a centralized yet feudal administrative system, derived from Mughal practices but adapted to local conditions. Jagirdars and zamindars were retained under conditional loyalty. Revenue farming and military jagirs were prominent. Court culture revolved around Persianate traditions, but Tamil, Telugu, and Urdu were used in public administration. Before European involvement and the Carnatic Wars. The Carnatic region became a theater of conflict between European powers, especially the British East India Company and the French Compagnie des Indes, leading to the Carnatic Wars, 1746-1763. First Carnatic War, 1746-1748, triggered by the Anglo-French rivalry during the War of Austrian Succession. French forces under Dupleix took Madras from the British but returned it later via treaty. The Nawab of Arcot, Anwaruddin Khan, tried to control European conflict but was sidelined. Second Carnatic War, 1749-1754. A civil war erupted between Chanda Sahib, supported by the French, and Muhammad Ali Khan Walaja, supported by the British. Major battles like Arcot, 1751, and Trichinopoly reshaped power in South India. Robert Clive emerged as a British hero, securing Muhammad Ali's position. Third Carnatic War, 1757-1763, part of the global 7 Years' War. French defeated at Wandiwash, 1760. Treaty of Paris, 1763, ended major French ambitions in India. British influence became dominant in the Carnatic. Muhammad Ali Khan Walaja and British alliance Muhammad Ali Khan Walaja, ER. 1749-1795 was the most significant Nawab of Arcot. Pro-British, he allowed the East India Company to station troops and control ports, incurred huge debts to the British, leading to permanent dependency, built the Chapak Palace in Madras, the Nawab's official residence, patron of arts, Urdu literature, and Islamic scholarship. 6. Economic policies and revenue system. The Nawab struggled with financial mismanagement and increasing British interference, relied heavily on loans from British financiers. Revenue farming systems led to peasant exploitation and local rebellions. British company gained Diwani rights, tax collection, over parts of the Carnatic. 7. Cultural contributions of the Carnatic Nawabs. Despite political decline, the Nawabs of Arcot were notable patrons of culture. Urdu and Persian literature, supported ghazals, nazams, and religious poetry, hosted scholars and poets from North India. Madras became a literary center for Islamic philosophy and poetry. B. Architecture. Chapak Palace, an Indo-Saracenic masterpiece in Chennai. Mosques and palaces at Arcot, Vellore, and Trichy. Fusion of Mughal, Dravidian, and European architectural styles. 8. Decline and annexation by the British. By the late 18th century, the Nawabs of Arcot had lost real power, heavily indebted and dependent on British military support. Lord Wellesley's subsidiary alliance further curtailed sovereignty. In 1801, the Carnatic Treaty was signed by Nawab Azim-ud-Dawla, ceding full control of the Carnatic to the British East India Company. This formally ended the Nawab's rule. The title became ceremonial, and the family lived as pensioners of the British Crown. Noning, legacy of the Arcot Nawabs. Despite their decline, the Nawabs of Arcot left an enduring legacy. Transitional rulers between the Mughals and the British in South India created a bridge between Islamic North Indian culture and South Indian society, gave rise to the Anglo-Indian elite and administrative structures later used by the British, preserved and propagated Urdu, Persian, and Islamic learning in the South. The Nawabs of Arcot remain a symbol of cultural refinement, political complexity, and the changing dynamics of early modern South India. X. Conclusion. The Carnatic Nawabs were central to South Indian politics during the transition from post-Vijayanagara fragmentation to colonial consolidation. Their alliance with the British, participation in the Carnatic Wars, and subsequent loss of autonomy reflected broader trends in Indian history, namely the decline of indigenous power and the rise of European imperialism. Their cultural patronage and administrative experiments mark them as one of the most influential successor states in the Tamil region during the post-Vijayanagara era. Part 5, the Kingdom of Mysore and Wodeyar rule approx. 2,150 words. I. Introduction. Mysore as a post-Vijayanagara successor state. The Kingdom of Mysore emerged as one of the most powerful and enduring successor states after the fall of the Vijayanagara Empire. Originally a vassal of Vijayanagara, the Wodeyar dynasty gradually asserted independence and built an influential South Indian state that would later become known for resistance to colonial expansion under Haider Ali and Tipu Sultan. 2. Origins of the Wodeyar dynasty. The Wodeyars, or Odeyars, claimed descent from the Yaduvanshi lineage, tracing their ancestry to the lords of Dwaraka. They began as chieftains under the Vijayanagara Empire, ruling a small principality centered on Mysore, Mahishuru. In 1610, Raja Wodeyar declared independence from Vijayanagara by capturing Srirangapatna, a strategically important island fortress. He transferred the capital from Mysore to Srirangapatna and established a sovereign Hindu monarchy. 3rd. Consolidation and early expansion, shown to 17th century. Throughout the 17th century, the Wodeyars expanded their control across the Kaveri River basin, taking advantage of the decline of neighboring Nayaka and Vijayanagara successors. Key developments: reorganization of military forces including cavalry and artillery, development of forts, temples, and reservoirs, maintenance of Hindu rituals at Srirangapatna, emphasizing religious legitimacy. 4. Golden era of cultural growth. The Wodeyar court became a major center of literature, fine arts, and religious scholarship, encouraged Kannada, Sanskrit, and Telugu literature, patronized scholars, poets, and musicians, built iconic temples like Chamundeshwari Temple, and contributed to Dravidian architecture. 5. Rise of Haider Ali, de facto power shift. By the mid-18th century, the kingdom faced internal and external pressures. This set the stage for the rise of Haider Ali, a military commander of humble origin who took control of Mysore. Appointed as Sarvadhikari chief minister in the 1760s, became the de facto ruler, although the Wodeyars remained symbolic monarchs, expanded the kingdom into Malabar, Coorg, and Arcot. Haider Ali was a skilled military strategist and administrator, known for organizing a disciplined army trained in European-style warfare, establishing state monopolies on key commodities, fostering relations with French officers and traders. 6. Reign of Tipu Sultan, 1782-1799. Following Haider Ali's death in 1782, his son Tipu Sultan, also known as the Tiger of Mysore, succeeded him. A. Military and political achievements, known for his bravery, technological innovation, and anti-colonial resistance. Fought 4 Anglo-Mysore wars against the British East India Company, innovated in rocket artillery, cavalry tactics, and diplomacy. B. Anglo-Mysore Wars 1. First Anglo-Mysore War, 1767-1769. Mysore victory under Haider Ali. 2. Second War, 1780-1784. Tipu forced the British into a treaty. 3. Third War, 1790-1792. Tipu suffered losses, ceded half his kingdom. 4. Fourth War, 1799. Tipu died defending Srirangapatna. Mysore fell to the British. 7. Tipu Sultan's reforms and administration. Tipu introduced several modernizing reforms in governance and economy. Land revenue reform, accurate surveys and taxation efficiency, state-run industries in sandalwood, textiles, and sugar, modern coinage and a centralized military pay bureaucracy, diplomacy with France, Turkey, and Afghanistan to counter British dominance. Tipu's reign was progressive but controversial due to his religious policies, especially his actions against rebellious subjects in Coorg, Malabar, and Mangalore. 8. British intervention and restoration of the Wodeyars. After Tipu's defeat and death in 1799, the British restored the Wodeyar dynasty under a subsidiary alliance. Krishna Raja Wodeyar III, R. 1799-1868, ascended the throne at age 5. British Resident and Regency Council oversaw administration. Srirangapatna was abandoned. Mysore city became the new capital. 9. 19th century Wodeyars and the Mysore Renaissance. Under British supervision, Mysore experienced a cultural and administrative revival, especially during the reign of A. Chamaraja Wodeyar X, R. 1868-1894, promoted Western-style education and industry, supported the Indian National Congress and early nationalist thought, built public works including railways and hospitals. B. Krishnaraja Wodeyar IV, R. 1894-1940, known as the Rajarshi, philosopher king. His Diwan, Sir M. Visvesvaraya, was a pioneering engineer and administrator. Mysore became one of the most progressive princely states in India. Achievements under Krishnaraja IV. Mysore University established in 1916. Industrialization, sugar, textiles, and sandalwood oil. Dams and irrigation networks like Krishnaraja Sagara, KRS Dam. Urban development in Mysore city with public parks, libraries, and clean water. X. Role in India's freedom movement and integration. Mysore remained relatively stable during the Indian independence movement, balancing between royal governance and democratic reforms. The Wodeyars supported limited constitutional reforms and allowed elected councils. In 1947, Maharaja Jayachamarajendra Wodeyar signed the Instrument of Accession, integrating Mysore into the Union of India. Mysore state became part of the modern state of Karnataka. 18. Legacy of the Wodeyars and the Kingdom of Mysore. The Wodeyars left a lasting legacy on South Indian history, maintained continuity of Hindu kingship post-Vijayanagara, nurtured a rich cultural tradition blending classical and modern elements, symbolized efficient, benevolent monarchy in colonial India, pioneered modern infrastructure, education, and public health initiatives. Their court gave rise to a unique form of Kannada patriotism, temple architecture, and musical patronage. Conclusion. The Kingdom of Mysore, under the Wodeyars and later Haider Ali and Tipu Sultan, evolved from a post-Vijayanagara principality into one of the most dynamic and resilient states in South India. From resistance against colonialism to the promotion of education and technology, Mysore played a crucial role in shaping the trajectory of modern Karnataka and South India. Part 6. The Madurai Nayaks and Southern Tamil Nadu Approx. 2,250 words. Introduction. Southern Tamil Nadu after Vijayanagara. The fall of the Vijayanagara Empire in the 17th century triggered significant political reorganization across Tamil Nadu. In the south, one of the most influential successor states was established by the Madurai Nayaks, who governed from the 16th to the 18th century. As former governors under the Vijayanagara Empire, the Nayaks asserted autonomy and laid the foundation for a Tamil polity that blended Dravidian traditions with Telugu military governance. Second, the rise of the Nayaks of Madurai. Background: Nayaka governance under Vijayanagara. The Nayaka system was introduced by the Vijayanagara rulers to administer frontier provinces. Prominent commanders were appointed as Nayaks, local chieftains or governors, and granted revenue lands called Amaram in exchange for military support. In Madurai, the Vijayanagara Emperor Krishna-devaraya appointed Viswanatha Nayaka in 1529 CE as governor. Over time, especially after the Battle of Talikota, 1565, the Madurai Nayaks became de facto independent rulers. Founding of the Madurai Kingdom, Viswanatha Nayaka, R. 1529-1564, reorganized the territory, built fortifications, and defeated local rivals. Introduced administrative reforms based on the Palayakarar system, a decentralized military feudal structure. Strengthened Madurai as a political capital and religious center. Third, administrative and military organization. The Nayaks developed a unique governance system suited to their diverse and mountainous terrain. A. Palayakarar system. The kingdom was divided into 72 palayams, feudal estates, each ruled by a polygar or palayakarar. These local lords owed allegiance to the Nayak king, paid tribute, and maintained militia forces. While effective for defense, the system led to internal rebellions and rivalries. B. Nayaka court and bureaucracy. The central court at Madurai coordinated foreign diplomacy, internal revenue, temple administration, and military decisions. Court languages included Telugu, Tamil, and Sanskrit. Many Nayak rulers were themselves Telugu speakers, but patronized Tamil traditions. Before, religious and cultural patronage. The Madurai Nayaks were prolific patrons of Hindu temples, literature, dance, and music, temple architecture. The Nayaks built and renovated many iconic temples. Meenakshi Amman Temple in Madurai expanded significantly under Tirumala Nayaka, featuring towering gopurams, mandapas, and ornate corridors. Contributions to Rameswaram, Tiruchendur, and Srirangam temples. Architectural style fused Dravidian traditions with intricate Telugu craftsmanship. B. Support for arts and literature. Supported Tamil and Telugu poets, including Kambar, Thiruvalluvar, and devotional bhakti poets. Promoted Bharatanatyam dance and temple music. Religious tolerance was evident through support of Shaivism, Vaishnavism, and even Jain and Muslim communities. 5. Key rulers of the Madurai Nayak dynasty. A. Viswanatha Nayaka, 1529-1564. Founder of the dynasty, reorganized administration and defeated internal rebellions, built fortresses and centralized power. B. Krishnappa Nayaka, 1564-1572. Consolidated borders and expanded into Tirunelveli and Ramnad. C. Thirumalai Nayaka, R. 1623-1659. Considered the greatest ruler of the Madurai Nayaks, moved the capital to Madurai from Trichy. Constructed the Thirumalai Nayakar Mahal, known for its Indo-Saracenic architecture. Promoted trade, arts, and public works. Maintained diplomatic ties with Portuguese, Dutch, and Arabs. D. Rani Mangamal, R. 1689-1706. Served as regent during the minority of her grandson. Ruled during a period of internal peace and prosperity. 6. Foreign relations and conflicts. The Nayaks faced continuous challenges from neighbors and European powers. Regular conflicts with the Tanjore Nayaks, Ramnad Maravas, and Mysore Wodeyars. Attempted to balance between Mughal diplomacy and Maratha incursions. Trade relations with the Portuguese, Dutch, and later British brought firearms, spices, and global exposure. 7th. Decline and disintegration. By the late 17th and early 18th centuries, the Madurai Nayak kingdom began to disintegrate due to A. Internal strife, succession disputes weakened central authority. Increasing autonomy of polygars led to local wars and disobedience. B. External threats. Pressure from Mysore Marathas and Arcot Nawabs. Rise of Chanda Sahib and intervention of the British and French during the Carnatic Wars. C. Final collapse. In 1736, the last Nayak ruler, Vijayaranga Chokanatha Nayak, died without a clear heir. the kingdom descended into anarchy, and Arcot Nawabs' forces under Chanda Sahib took over Madurai. The region was eventually annexed by the Nawab of Arcot, and later came under British control. The 8th legacy of the Madurai Nayaks. Despite their decline, the Madurai Nayaks left a profound legacy. Temple towns and pilgrimage centers. Madurai, Rameswaram, and Tiruchendur grew into major spiritual centers due to Nayak patronage. Their temple expansions are still revered in Tamil religious tradition. B. Cultural fusion created a Telugu-Tamil cultural synthesis. Popularized courtly dance forms, architectural styles, and ceremonial festivals like Chittirai Thiruvija. C. Influence on regional governance. The Palayakarar system influenced feudal structures in South Tamil Nadu well into the 19th century. Several former polygars like Veerapandya Kadabomman played roles in resistance against British colonialism. 9. Conclusion. The Madurai Nayaks were among the most culturally rich and administratively innovative successor states to the Vijayanagara Empire. Through architectural grandeur, decentralized governance, and artistic patronage, they transformed southern Tamil Nadu into a hub of Hindu revivalism and cultural renaissance. Their fall opened the region to Arcot and British domination, but their legacy continues in the temples, traditions, and tales of Tamil Nadu. Part 7. The Tanjore Nayaks and the Rise of the Marathas in Tanjore approx. 2,250 words. I. Introduction. Tanjore as a cultural and political successor. Following the disintegration of the Vijayanagara Empire, the Tanjore Nayaks emerged as a powerful regional dynasty in the fertile Kaveri Delta of Tamil Nadu. Their reign was succeeded by the Tanjore Marathas, creating a continuity of administration, temple patronage, and artistic innovation. Both dynasties played pivotal roles in the cultural and political life of South India until the region fell under British control. Intadu. The Tanjore Nayak dynasty, 1532–1673, establishment under Sevappa Nayak. Sevappa Nayak, the first ruler, was a general under Achyuta Devaraya of Vijayanagara. He was appointed governor of Tanjore around 1532 CE, and eventually declared independence as central authority weakened, founded a strong Nayaka state with a focus on temple restoration, irrigation, and fortifications. B. Relations with the Vijayanagara Empire. Though nominally loyal to Vijayanagara, the Nayaks operated independently, especially after the Battle of Talikota, 1565. Maintained marriage alliances and military cooperation with other Nayak states like Madurai and Jinji. Third. Administration and economy. A. Centralized administration. The Tanjore Nayaks followed a centralized monarchical structure while also employing the Palayakarar system in the rural peripheries. Maintained a strong bureaucracy and system of land revenue, cadastral surveys, and canal-based agriculture. B. Agricultural and economic policies. Major focus on the Kaveri Delta irrigation system, including the maintenance of tanks and canals. Tanjore became a granary of South India with prosperous rice, sugarcane, and cotton cultivation. Active inland and maritime trade with Dutch, Portuguese, and Sri Lankan kingdoms. 4. Religious and cultural patronage. A. Temple architecture and renovation. Supported restoration of Brihadiswarar temple built by Cholas. Added mandapas, gopurams, and inner sanctum shrines to various Shaiva and Vaishnava temples. Commissioned murals, sculptures, and ritual halls for bhakti worship. B. Arts, music, and literature. Promoted Carnatic music, dance, and Sanskrit Telugu-Tamil literary fusion. Patronized Telugu poets like Ramabhadra Dikshitar and Tamil literary works. Initiated temple festivals, dance dramas, and theatrical traditions. The military campaigns and conflicts. The Tanjore Nayaks often engaged in warfare with Madurai Nayaks over control of southern Tamil regions. Bijapur sultans and the Deccan powers for dominance in coastal regions. Internal succession crises and polygar revolts destabilized the kingdom over time. 6. Decline of the Tanjore Nayaks. A. Last major ruler, Vijayanagara Nayak. His reign, IR 34–673, marked the final phase of Nayak rule in Tanjore. Faced repeated conflicts with Madurai Nayaks, especially Chokanatha Nayaka. In 1673, Tanjore was invaded by Madurai forces. The city was captured and Vijayanagara Nayak was killed. B. Interlude of Madurai control. For a brief period, Alagiri Nayaka of Madurai ruled Tanjore. However, instability invited external intervention, this time from the Marathas. 7. The rise of the Tanjore Maratha Kingdom, 1676-1855 A. Entry of Venkoji, Ikoji Y, half-brother of Shivaji. The Sultan of Bijapur, who had suzerainty claims over Tanjore, sent Venkoji, Ikoji Y, a Maratha general, to reclaim the region. In 1676, Venkoji captured Tanjore and declared himself Raja of Tanjore in 1676, marking the beginning of the Tanjore Maratha dynasty. 8. Administration and governance under Marathas, A. Continuity of local institutions. Maintained many Nayak-era institutions, including temple bureaucracy and tax policies. Blended Maratha traditions with Tamil administrative customs. Encouraged local participation through village assemblies, and councils. B. Patronage of language and culture. Promoted Marathi, Telugu, Tamil, and Sanskrit literature. Maratha kings patronized court poets, musicians, and scholars. Encouraged translations, commentaries, and the writing of historical chronicles, e.g., Rajabudayam. 9. Key rulers of the Tanjore Maratha dynasty. A. Surfoji I, 1712-1728. Focused on consolidation of power and territorial defense, managed relations with the Mughals, Arcot Nawabs, and European traders. B. Pratap Singh, R. 1739-1763, known for his military skills and diplomatic balance. Constructed public works, encouraged arts, and managed conflicts with Carnatic rulers in Mysore. C. Surfoji II, R. 1798-1832, the most celebrated Maratha ruler of Tanjore. Educated under Christian missionary Schwartz, established the Saraswati Mahal Library, one of Asia's oldest and richest manuscript collections. Promoted Western science, Tamil publishing and multilingual education. X. European interactions and colonial struggles. A. Encounters with the British and French. Faced increasing intervention from the British East India Company. The British installed Surfoji II on the throne under a subsidiary alliance. Controlled foreign policy, army, and trade through indirect rule. B. Abolition of sovereignty, 1855. Upon the death of Shivaji II, son of Surfoji II, the British annexed Tanjore under the Doctrine of Lapse. The kingdom was merged into the Madras Presidency. 18th. Legacy of the Tanjore Nayaks and Marathas. A. Architectural contributions, expansion and maintenance of Chola temples. Construction of palaces, libraries, chatras, and mandapas. B. Literary and educational achievements. Saraswati Mahal Library remains a beacon of classical literature and scholarship. Integration of Marathi into Tamil literary culture. Surfoji II's reign marked by advances in medicine, printing, and astronomy. C. Cultural synthesis. Tanjore became a melting pot of Maratha, Tamil, and Telugu traditions. Prominent center for Bharatanatyam, Carnatic music, and devotional arts. Continued patronage of temple festivals and religious institutions ensured the survival of Hindu rituals under colonial rule. Duinthemed. Conclusion. The Tanjore Nayaks and Marathas upheld the legacy of Vijayanagara through administrative innovation, cultural patronage, and temple-centered statecraft. Despite their eventual subjugation by colonial powers, they enriched the historical and artistic landscape of Tamil Nadu. The continuity of Bhakti traditions, classical learning, and multilingual scholarship in Tanjore is a testament to their enduring contribution to South Indian civilization. Part 8. The Jinji Nayaks and Eastern Tamil Nadu Approx. 2,150 words. I. Introduction. Jinji as a strategic frontier. Jinji, Senji, located in present-day Tamil Nadu, was one of the most strategically important strongholds in South India. The Jinji Nayaks, though less renowned than their counterparts in Madurai and Tanjore, played a crucial role in maintaining the legacy of the Vijayanagara Empire in the eastern Tamil region, especially in its military, architectural, and administrative practices. Code. Origins and establishment of Jinji Nayak rule. A. Military outpost of Vijayanagara. Initially established as a military outpost under the Vijayanagara Empire during the reign of Krishnadevaraya, the strategic rock fortress complex of Jinji was reinforced to protect the eastern frontiers of the empire against invasions by Bahmani sultans, Golconda, and Orissa. B. Founding of independent rule. As Vijayanagara authority weakened post-1565, local commanders asserted autonomy. Krishnappa Nayak, a military governor under Achyuta Deva Raya, founded the Jinji Nayak dynasty around 1550 CE. Thirst. Key rulers and political history. A. Krishnappa Nayak, R. 1550-1595, consolidated territories around Jinji, Tindavanam, and Cuddalore, fortified the Jinji fort complex, making it one of the strongest citadels in South India. Promoted trade, local governance, and temple construction. B. Muthyala Nayak, R. 1595-1610, continued infrastructure development, including water reservoirs and road networks, engaged in diplomacy with the Portuguese at Nagapattinam and Dutch at Pulicat, maintained alliances with Madurai Nayaks and occasional conflicts with Tanjore. C. Last Nayaks in decline, 17th century. Succession disputes and pressure from the Bijapur Sultanate, Marathas, and Mughals weakened the kingdom. By the late 17th century, Jinji was captured successively by Bijapur, Marathas, Shivaji's forces, Mughals, and finally the French and British. 4. Administrative and military structure. A. Fort-centered governance. Jinji Fort, built on 3 hillocks, Rajagiri, Krishnagiri, and Chandriandurg, served as the power center. The Nayaks governed through military command posts, local chieftains, and fortified towns. B. Revenue system and agrarian policy. Land was divided into wet, dry, and forest tracts with different tax regimes. Irrigation through tanks, kulams, and canals, vikals, supported paddy and millet cultivation. Revenue collected in kind and cash with emphasis on grain surplus for provisioning the fort. Vi. Culture and temple patronage. A. Religious tolerance and patronage. Though Saivite by faith, Jinji Nayaks patronized Vaishnavite, Jain, and local deities. Temples like the Ranganatha Swami Temple, Vedapariswarar Temple, and numerous village shrines were restored and expanded. B. Art and architecture. Jinji developed a distinctive blend of Vijayanagara Dravidian architecture, especially visible in mandapas, gopurams, and fort walls. Built watchtowers, granaries, audience halls, and military barracks using laterite stone and lime mortar. Sixings. Economic and maritime trade networks. A. Coastal commerce. Proximity to the Coromandel coast enabled robust trade with Southeast Asia, Arabian ports, and European powers. Exports: spices, textiles, betel nut, and rice. Imports: horses, luxury items, weapons, and coins. B. Interaction with foreign powers. Maintained diplomatic relations with the Portuguese, Dutch, and occasionally the British. Allowed establishment of trading factories in nearby ports in exchange for tribute or military support. 7th. Military fortifications and strategy. A. The impregnable Jinji Fort. Described by Maratha ruler Shivaji as the Troy of the East for its invincibility. Equipped with multi-layered walls, hidden tunnels, trap gates, and granaries. Each of the 3 hill forts was self-contained and defensible, making it nearly unassailable. B. Defense against invasions. Successfully repelled invasions from Golconda, Bahmani splinter factions, and local rebels for decades. Withstood a siege by Mughal General Zulfikar Khan 1690s for over 7 years before falling. Fall and aftermath of Jinji Nayak rule. A. Maratha and Mughal period, late 17th century. Jinji was briefly under Shivaji's General Rajaram during the Mughal-Maratha Wars. Mughals took control in 1698, making it a key southern stronghold under Aurangzeb's expansion. B. European contest and colonial control. The fort changed hands between French and British during the 18th century Carnatic Wars. Eventually, it was incorporated into the British Madras Presidency. 9. Legacy of the Jinji Nayaks. A. Architectural heritage. The Jinji Fort complex is now a protected archaeological site. Remains of granaries, temples, halls, and barracks are testimony to a powerful fort state. B. Role in South Indian defense and culture. preserved the Vijayanagara military ethos in southern Tamil Nadu, maintained cultural continuity through temple patronage and local traditions. C. Historical memory. Though lesser known, the Jinji Nayaks are remembered in Tamil folklore, inscriptions, and regional histories as valiant defenders of Tamil land. X. Conclusion. The Jinji Nayaks held a unique place among the successor states of Vijayanagara, bridging the military rigor of the empire with localized governance and cultural synthesis. Despite their eventual decline, they left behind a formidable architectural and historical legacy that continues to intrigue scholars and travelers alike. Part 9. The Kingdom of Mysore under the Wodeyars and Haider Ali approx. 2,250 words. I. Introduction. The emergence of Mysore. The Kingdom of Mysore, originally a small principality under the Vijayanagara Empire, rose to prominence in the post-Vijayanagara period. Governed initially by the Wodeyar dynasty, and later transformed into a major power under Haider Ali and Tipu Sultan, Mysore became a central player in 18th century South Indian politics, resisting both Maratha and British domination. Coup. The Wodeyar dynasty, from vassals to kings, origins and early rule. The Wodeyars were feudatories of Vijayanagara, ruling from Mysore since the 14th century. After the Battle of Talikota, 1565, and the weakening of Vijayanagara control, they declared independence in 1610 CE under Raja Wodeyar Burr, shifted the capital from Mysore to Srirangapatna. B. Expansion and administration. Consolidated control over southern Karnataka and parts of Tamil Nadu. Introduced a structured revenue system, built tanks and patronized temples and the arts. Maintained peace through diplomacy with the Nayakas and Marathas. Third, cultural flourishing under the Wodeyars. A. Religious and cultural patronage. Supporters of Shaivism and Vaishnavism, they renovated temples and encouraged festivals like Dasara, built architectural landmarks in Srirangapatna, including temples and palaces. B. Literary and artistic development. Encouraged Kannada, Sanskrit, and later Persian and Urdu literary traditions. Patronized classical music, dance, and drama, laying the foundation for Mysore's later cultural identity. A forced rise of Haider Ali, the military transformation. A. Origins and rise to power. Haider Ali was born into a modest family, but rose through military ranks due to his talent and bravery. Gained prominence during campaigns against rebellious chieftains and Marathas. In 1761, he seized power, making himself the de facto ruler of Mysore, though retaining the Wodeyars as titular monarchs. B. Military and administrative reforms. Built a modern army inspired by French and European models. Introduced rocket artillery, later studied by the British. Streamlined the tax collection system, improved irrigation and promoted agriculture and trade. V. Foreign relations and conflicts. A. Wars with the Marathas and Nizam. Fought several wars with the Marathas and Hyderabad's Nizam, gaining and losing territories. Maintained strategic alliances to balance power dynamics in the Deccan. B. First Anglo-Mysore War, 1767-1769. Successfully defended Mysore against a British Nizam-Maratha alliance. The war ended with the Treaty of Madras, which reaffirmed Haidar's territorial control. 6. Mysore under Tipu Sultan. A. Succession and vision. Haider Ali died in 1782 during the Second Anglo-Mysore War. His son, Tipu Sultan, ascended to power with a vision of modernizing Mysore and defending it from colonial expansion. B. Administrative innovations. Introduced new coinage, a centralized revenue system, and state monopolies in trade. Promoted sericulture, agriculture, and arms manufacturing. Maintained an effective spy network and postal system. C. Religious and cultural patronage. Tipu Sultan built mosques, dargahs, and also patronized Hindu temples and festivals. Supported Persian, Urdu, and Kannada literature. Promoted religious tolerance while emphasizing Islamic governance. 7. Anglo-Mysore Wars and fall of Mysore independence. A. Second and Third Anglo-Mysore Wars. Second War, 1780-1784. Tipu Sultan inflicted heavy losses on the British and signed the Treaty of Mangalore. Third War, 1790-1792. A coalition of British, Marathas, and Nizam led to Mysore's defeat in the Treaty of Seringapatam. Tipu had to cede half his territory and give hostages. B. Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, 1799. British forces under Lord Wellesley stormed Srirangapatna. Tipu Sultan died in battle, ending independent Mysore's resistance. A-Beat. Restoration of the Wodeyars and British paramountcy. A. British reorganization. After Tipu's fall, the British restored the Wodeyar dynasty under a subsidiary alliance. The Wodeyars ruled under British supervision, with limited powers and a British resident in Mysore. B. Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, 1799. British forces under Lord Wellesley stormed Srirangapatna. Tipu Sultan died in battle, ending independent Mysore's resistance. A-Bean. Restoration of the Wodeyars and British paramountcy. A. British reorganization. After Tipu's fall, the British restored the Wodeyar dynasty under a subsidiary alliance. The Wodeyars ruled under British supervision, with limited powers and a British resident in Mysore. B. Modernization under British influence. The later Wodeyars, especially Krishna Raja Wodeyar IV, transformed Mysore into a model princely state, introduced railways, public education, industrialization, and modern civic planning in Mysore and Bangalore. 9. Mysore's enduring legacy. A. Contributions to military science. Tipu Sultan's development of iron-cased rockets influenced British rocketry. Mysore's army was among the most modern in 18th century India. B. Cultural Renaissance. The Wodeyars' long rule enriched Kannada language, music, and visual arts. Their patronage of the Mysore Dasara festival continues to this day. C. Nationalist inspiration. Tipu Sultan remains a symbol of resistance against colonialism. Mysore's reforms and legacy inspired later freedom movements and cultural nationalism in Karnataka. X. Conclusion. The kingdom of Mysore evolved from a small post-Vijayanagara principality into a formidable military and cultural power. Under the Wodeyars, Haider Ali, and Tipu Sultan, Mysore became a beacon of governance, resistance, and innovation. Despite British conquest, the region retained a unique identity that contributed deeply to India's cultural and political evolution. Part 10. The Madurai Nayaks in Southern Tamil Nadu. Approx. 2,250 words. A introduction. A legacy of Southern governance. The Madurai Nayak dynasty emerged as one of the most powerful and culturally vibrant successor states of the Vijayanagara Empire in southern Tamil Nadu. From their base in Madurai, they governed a large and diverse region with skill, establishing a distinct identity rooted in military power, temple patronage, and a unique administrative system. 2. Origins of the Madurai Nayak dynasty. A. Vijayanagara connection. The Nayaks of Madurai were originally military governors, Nayakas, appointed by the Vijayanagara emperors to control the southern frontier. Viswanatha Nayak, appointed around 1529 CE by Emperor Krishna-devaraya, is considered the founder of the dynasty. B. Assertion of independence. With the decline of Vijayanagara authority post-1565, the Madurai Nayaks, like other regional Nayak dynasties, became de facto sovereigns. Viswanatha and his successors consolidated power, resisted external invasions, and expanded their influence across Tamil Nadu. 3rd. Political history and key rulers. A. Viswanatha Nayak, R. 1529-1564. Reorganized the kingdom using Kaval system, policing and security structure. Laid foundations of Nayaka-style governance by integrating local chieftains, polygars. B. Thirumalai Nayak, R. 1623-1659, the most celebrated ruler, moved the capital permanently to Madurai. Undertook massive architectural projects including the Thirumalai Nayakar Mahal, strengthened ties with local temples and communities, and maintained peace through diplomacy and military strength. C. Queen Meenakshi, R. 1700-1736, ruled as regent after the death of her husband, Vijayaranga Chokanatha Nayak. Her reign faced internal strife and external invasions from Chanda Sahib and the Nawab of Arcot. Ended with the decline of the dynasty, paving the way for Nawab rule and later British intervention. 4. Administrative system and polity. A. Centralized but feudal administration. kingdom divided into palayams, feudal estates administered by polygars, palayakarar, who owed allegiance to the king. The king acted as a central figure coordinating defense, temple management, taxation, and diplomacy. B. Military organization maintained a standing army and war elephants. Utilized local militia forces commanded by loyal polygars. Strong fortifications were built across the region: Dindigul, Trichy, Sivaganga. Economic policies and revenue management. A. Agrarian-focused land revenue was the primary source of income. Investment in irrigation tanks, canals, and wetland development boosted agriculture, especially paddy and pulses. Revenue officials, Karanis, were appointed at regional and village levels. B. Trade and commerce encouraged local markets and long-distance trade. Engaged in limited maritime commerce through nearby coastal towns like Thoothukudi and Kayalpatnam. 6. Religious and cultural patronage. A. Temple building and rituals. Patronized major temples, notably the Meenakshi Amman Temple in Madurai, which was expanded and ornamented during their reign, supported large-scale festivals, rituals, and temple maintenance with state funds. B. Support for literature and arts. Encouraged Tamil, Telugu, and Sanskrit literature. The court attracted poets, scholars, and musicians. The Nayak period witnessed the development of the Bhakti movement in Tamil Nadu. 7. Architecture and urban planning. A. Nayaka-style architecture. Famous for massive gopurams, temple towers, mandapas, pillared halls, and intricate sculptures. Use of stucco figures, painted ceilings, and monumental corridors. Masterpieces include Meenakshi Temple's Thousand-Pillar Hall, Thirumalai Nayakar Mahal, Ranganathaswamy Temple additions at Srirangam B City Development. Madurai became a cultural and administrative capital with a well-planned urban layout. Roads, water tanks, and choltries, rest houses, were developed to support pilgrims and trade. 8. Conflict, decline, and fall. A. Internal strife. Increasing autonomy of polygars led to frequent revolts. The succession crisis after Queen Meenakshi's reign weakened central authority. B. External invasions. Invasion by Chanda Sahib with the help of the French destabilized the region. The Nawab of Arcot, backed by the British, eventually annexed the region. By the mid-18th century, Madurai became part of the Nawab's dominion and later fell into British control. 9. Resistance and legacy. A. Polygar rebellions, 18th century. Many Nayaka-era polygars resisted Nawab and British authority. Notable leaders like Veerapandya Kadabomman emerged from this system. B. Cultural continuity. The Nayaka era left a lasting impact on Tamil identity, temple worship, and regional architecture. Festivals, rituals, and public structures initiated by them continue to influence the cultural life of Tamil Nadu. Conclusion. The Madurai Nayaks played a crucial role in shaping post-Vijayanagara South India, particularly in Tamil Nadu. They preserved and redefined imperial legacies, maintained a balance of power through feudal structures, and gave birth to an era of temple architecture, literary output, and cultural cohesion that endures in modern Tamil consciousness. Part 11. The Kaladi Nayakas and Coastal Karnataka Approx. 2,250 words. I. Introduction. A power from the Western Ghats. The Kaladi Nayakas, also known as the Ikri Nayakas, were one of the most resilient and well-organized successor states of the Vijayanagara Empire. Ruling from the forested and coastal regions of present-day Karnataka, they managed to maintain autonomy for over 2 centuries. With a stronghold in the Malnad region and a strategic location near coastal trade routes, their reign was marked by military resilience, maritime trade, and temple patronage. Second. Origins and establishment are A. From chiefs to sovereigns. The founders, Chaudappa Nayaka and his son Sadashiva Nayaka, were originally military commanders under the Vijayanagara kings. After the Battle of Talikota, 1565, they declared de facto independence with Kaladi, later Ikeri and eventually Bednur, as their capital. B. Strategic geography. The Kaladi kingdom extended from the Malnad hills to the coastal ports of Hanavar and Bhatkal, giving it control over valuable spice and timber routes. Third. Administration and governance. A. Centralized rule with local delegation. The kingdom was divided into administrative units called Sime, governed by Nayakas or Palagars. Village-level administration was handled by local heads under the supervision of royal agents. B. Revenue and economy, primarily agrarian, with rice, betelnut, pepper, and areca as major crops. Revenue was assessed based on land fertility and irrigation access. Maritime commerce was promoted via coastal ports, with trade links to the Middle East and East Africa. 4. Military strength and defense. A. Defense strategy. The Kaladi rulers developed fortified hill towns, dense forest cover, and guerrilla warfare tactics to withstand invasions. The navy protected commercial interests along the Konkan coast. B. Conflicts and campaigns. Successfully repelled attacks by the Bijapur Sultanate Haider Ali, and later even delayed British expansion. Maintained armed neutrality or alliances with shifting regional powers like the Mughals, Marathas, and Portuguese. V. Prominent rulers of the Kaladi dynasty. A. Shivappa Nayaka, R. 1645–1660, most prominent and visionary ruler. Introduced the Sist revenue system, a scientific method of land classification and taxation. Reorganized administration, enhanced fortifications, and encouraged trade. Known as the Tiger of Karnataka for his military exploits. B. Chennamma, R. 1671–1696, one of the few female rulers in South India's post-Vijayanagara era, resisted Mughal pressure under Aurangzeb, and sheltered Rajaram, son of Shivaji, after he fled the Mughals. Maintained autonomy, while diplomatically balancing external threats. 6. Cultural patronage and religious tolerance. A. Temple construction and support. The Kaladi Nayakas were staunch Shaivites but were known for religious tolerance. Built temples like Ahurishwara Temple in Ikeri, Rameshwara Temple in Kaladi, also contributed to Jain, Christian, and Islamic religious structures in their domains. B. Promotion of arts and literature. Encouraged the growth of Kannada, Sanskrit, and Telugu literature. Sponsored Yakshagana, a form of classical folk theater native to coastal Karnataka. 7th. Maritime trade and economic influence. A. Strategic ports and trade partners. Controlled major ports like Honavar, Bhatkal, and Mangalore. Exported spices, forest products, and timber. Established commercial ties with Arab merchants, Persians, and Portuguese. B. Interaction with Europeans. Maintained cautious relations with the Portuguese and Dutch traders. Granted permission for building churches and warehouses in exchange for customs duties and trade advantages. Event. Decline of the Kaladi Nayakas. A. Internal weakness. Later rulers lacked the administrative and military acumen of their predecessors. Corruption, court intrigue, and factionalism weakened central authority. B. Rise of Haider Ali and British pressure. Faced constant pressure from Haider Ali of Mysore in the late 18th century. Eventually, the kingdom was annexed in 1763 into Mysore's dominion. The British later absorbed the region after the fall of Tipu Sultan in 1799. 9. Legacy of the Kaladi Nayakas. A. Lasting cultural identity. The unique blend of Shaiva devotion, Kannada pride, and coastal cosmopolitanism shaped the regional culture. Their temples and fortresses remain as architectural heritage sites. B. Shivappa Nayaka Sist system, recognized as one of the earliest systematic land revenue systems in southern India, later inspired the British and Mysorean methods of taxation and land surveys. C. Resistance and accommodation. The Kaladi Nayakas represent a model of regional resistance, resilience, and successful adaptation to a complex political environment. Conclusion. The Kaladi Nayakas embodied the spirit of regional assertion and cultural vitality in the wake of Vijayanagara's fall. Their strategic governance, maritime trade success, and military tenacity allowed them to flourish in an era of intense upheaval. Though eventually overtaken by Mysore and the British, their legacy lives on in the temples, towns, and traditions of coastal and Malnad Karnataka. Part 12. The Tanjore, Thanjavur, Nayakas approx. 2,250 words. Introduction. The cultural jewel of the South. The Tanjore Nayakas, a prominent Nayaka dynasty in post-Vijayanagara South India, ruled over Thanjavur, Tanjore, and the fertile Kaveri Delta region from the mid-16th to the late 17th century. Celebrated for their patronage of art, architecture, and literature, they transformed Tanjore into a cultural powerhouse. Despite external pressures and internal strife, they maintained political autonomy for nearly 150 years. 2. Origins and establishment. A. Vijayanagara roots. Like other Nayaka states, the Tanjore Nayaks originated as Vijayanagara military governors appointed to administer southern Tamil Nadu. The dynasty was founded by Sevappa Nayak in 1532 CE, a trusted general of Emperor Achyuta Deva Raya. B. Assertion of independence. Following the decline of central Vijayanagara power post-1565, the Nayaks of Tanjore acted increasingly as independent rulers. They navigated a complex political environment, balancing diplomacy with regional rivals and European powers. 3rd. Geopolitical and strategic importance. A. Fertile Kaveri Delta. Tanjore was one of the most agriculturally productive regions of South India. The Kaveri River supported rice cultivation, which was the economic backbone of the kingdom. B. Maritime trade and riverine economy. Access to the Bay of Bengal and proximity to Nagapattinam port allowed control over coastal trade. Revenue from trade in rice, textiles, and spices supplemented agrarian income. Fear, political history, and key rulers. A. Sevappa Nayak, R. 1532 to 1560, founder of the dynasty, focused on temple patronage and stabilizing administration. Maintained formal allegiance to Vijayanagara while acting with autonomy. B. Achyuthappa Nayak, R. 1560-1614, expanded the kingdom's territory and reinforced the naval presence, patron of learning and religious institutions. C. Raghunatha Nayak, R. 1600-1634, a scholar king and musician, widely regarded as the greatest ruler of the dynasty. Promoted Telugu and Sanskrit literature, music, and fine arts, his court became a center of cultural renaissance. D. Vijaya Raghava Nayak, R. 1634-1673, last ruler of the dynasty, faced the invasion of Chokanatha Nayak of Madurai, committed Jauhar, ritual self-immolation, after defeat ending the dynasty. V. Administration and revenue system. A. Central governance. The Nayaks maintained a strong royal court supported by ministers, military commanders, and temple functionaries. Local administration was conducted through palayams, governed by polygars under Nayak oversight. B. Revenue collection, primarily based on land revenue from wetland rice cultivation. Systems of land measurement and revenue rates were inherited from Chola and Vijayanagara traditions, then adapted to local needs. 6. Military and external relations. A. Army and fortifications. Maintained a standing army with cavalry, archers, and war elephants. Fortified cities like Tanjore, Kumbakonam, and Nagapattinam to protect against invasions. B. Diplomacy and European interaction. Established diplomatic relations with the Portuguese, Dutch, and Danes. Managed a fine balance between trade privileges and military caution. Occasional conflicts with Madurai Nayaks and Bijapur Sultanate strained resources. 7. Religion and temple patronage. A. Shaivism and Vaishnavism. The Tanjore Nayaks were ardent patrons of both Shaivism and Vaishnavism, renovated and expanded temples like Brihadiswarar Temple, originally built by the Cholas, Ramaswamy Temple in Kumbakonam, Sarangapani Temple B, temple architecture. Their architectural style featured pillared mandapas, intricate stucco work, narrative friezes, and murals. Use of granite and laterite continued Chola architectural traditions. 8. Literary and cultural contributions. A. Court culture and multilingualism. Court encouraged compositions in Tamil, Telugu, and Sanskrit. King Raghunatha Nayak himself authored works in music and literature. B. Music and dance supported. The development of Carnatic music. Royal courts served as venues for Bharatanatyam performances and classical poetry recitations. C. Murals and visual arts. The Tanjore paintings, characterized by gold foil and vivid colors, emerged during this period. Temple walls and palaces were adorned with murals depicting Puranic stories and courtly life. 9. Decline and aftermath. A. Conflict with Madurai Nayaks. Internal rivalries and dynastic succession issues made Tanjore vulnerable. In 1673, Chokanatha Nayak of Madurai besieged Tanjore, leading to its fall. B. Rise of Marathas in Tanjore. After the fall of the Nayaks, the region came under the control of the Tanjore Marathas, beginning with Ekoji the Renser, the half-brother of Shivaji. The Marathas carried forward the region's cultural traditions. X. Legacy of the Tanjore Nayaks. A. Cultural flourishing. The Tanjore Nayak period is considered a golden era of South Indian classical culture. Their patronage led to the development of art forms that define Tamil identity today. B. Preservation of Chola heritage. By restoring and maintaining Chola temples and administrative practices, they ensured continuity with the past. C. Influence on later dynasties. The Marathas, British, and regional chieftains absorbed many Nayak administrative practices and cultural norms. 18th. Conclusion. The Tanjore Nayaks represented a synthesis of military skill, cultural sophistication, and political resilience. As successors to the Vijayanagara tradition, they not only preserved its legacies but redefined them through their own regional expressions. Their contributions to art, literature, and music laid the foundation for Tanjavure's lasting identity as the heart of Tamil culture. Part 13. The Jinji Nayaks and the Eastern Frontier Approx. 2,250 words. I. Introduction. The Fortified Guardians of Tamil Nadu. The Senji Nayaks emerged as a crucial power in the eastern Tamil region during the fragmentation of the Vijayanagara Empire. Dominating a rugged landscape with a virtually impenetrable hill fort, they served both as a buffer state and an independent regional power. Though less culturally celebrated than their Tanjore counterparts, they played a vital role in resisting invasions and maintaining regional order. Tseku, geographic and strategic importance of Jinji A. The Senji Fort Complex, one of the most formidable fortresses in South India. Known as the Troy of the East, built across three hillocks, Krishnagiri, Rajagiri, and Chandrayandurg. Natural rock formations and human-built defenses made it nearly impregnable. B. Control over the eastern corridor. Located between Tiruvannamalai and Pondicherry, the region allowed access between the interior Deccan and the Coromandel coast. Strategically placed to monitor and tax traders and armies passing through. Third, origins and dynastic establishment. A. Subordinates turned sovereigns. The Jinji Nayaks were initially commanders under the Vijayanagara rulers, tasked with guarding the eastern frontier. By the late 16th century, they began exercising autonomous rule, mirroring developments in Madurai, Tanjore, and Keladi. B. Founding ruler, Krishnappa Nayak, c. 1550-1600, believed to be the founder of independent Jinji rule, strengthened fortifications and expanded territorial control. 4. Military strength and defense capabilities. A. Fortifications and infrastructure. Multi-tiered walls, granaries, water tanks, and secret escape routes made the fort self-sufficient for long sieges. The fort's architecture was a mix of Dravidian, Islamic, and European styles, a reflection of its cosmopolitan influences. B. Skilled resistance. Repelled several assaults from Bijapur, Golconda, Marathas, and later Mughals. The fortress withstood the Mughal siege, 1691-1698, for over 7 years before capitulating. The administration and society. A. Governance. The Nayaks followed centralized military control due to their fort-based governance. Local village chieftains and revenue officers were retained from the Vijayanagara system. B. Economy. Depended on taxation from trade, agriculture, and levies on pilgrim routes. The plains supported rice and millet farming. Surrounding forests supplied timber and honey. 6. Religious and cultural patronage. A. Religious diversity. Patronized Hindu temples, especially dedicated to Vishnu and Shiva, maintained religious harmony with Jain, Islamic, and early Christian communities in the region. B. Architecture and legacy. Constructed temples and mandapas in the Jinji region, contributed to fort temple architecture, such as the Kalyana Mandapa and Ranganathaswamy Temple. Wevi. Relations with neighboring powers. A. Marathas and the Tanjore struggle. Faced frequent skirmishes with the Tanjore Marathas during the late 17th century. Managed temporary alliances to maintain autonomy. B. The Mughal threat. and fall. After the conquest of Golconda and Bijapur, the Mughals turned toward the south. Aurangzeb ordered a siege of Jinji in 1691, which lasted until 1698 under Zulfikar Khan. The Jinji Nayak ruler surrendered, and the fortress was annexed by the Mughal Suba of Arcot. 8. European contact and coastal conflicts. A. French and British presence. Due to its proximity to Pondicherry, Jinji became entangled in Franco-British rivalries in the 18th century. The British eventually occupied Jinji in 1761 after defeating the French-aligned Nawabs. B. Lasting geopolitical significance. Even after political decline, Jinji remained a military outpost for successive powers: Mughals, Marathas, French, and British. 9. Legacy and historical significance. A. Symbol of resistance. The 7-year Mughal siege of Jinji became a symbol of local resistance against centralizing empires. The fort continues to be a reminder of South Indian engineering and military resilience. B. Neglected cultural heritage. Overshadowed by the cultural contributions of Tanjore or Madurai, the Jinji Nayaks remain underrepresented in historical narratives. Archaeological remains and local folklore preserve their memory. See modern recognition. Jinji Fort is now a protected monument under the Archaeological Survey of India, ASI. A major tourist destination, it draws attention to the forgotten chapters of Nayak valor. Conclusion. The Jinji Nayaks ruled a fortress kingdom that exemplified military resilience, strategic governance, and intercultural coexistence. Though their cultural contributions were modest compared to other successor states, their political and military legacy was formidable. Jinji served as both a bastion of independence and a gateway to the Coromandel, shaping the course of South Indian history in the post-Vijayanagara era. Part 14. The Madurai Nayaks, Power and Legacy in Southern Tamil Nadu Approx. 2,250 words. Introduction. A southern stronghold of power and culture. The Madurai Nayaks, one of the most significant successor states of the Vijayanagara Empire, ruled southern Tamil Nadu for over 2 centuries, 1529-1736 CE. Renowned for their administrative efficiency, temple patronage, and cultural contributions, they turned Madurai into a thriving capital. Their reign saw both political consolidation and conflict, ending with the rise of the Nawabs of Arcot. Second, origins and rise to power. A. Vijayanagara appointees. The dynasty began when Viswanatha Nayak, a Vijayanagara general under Emperor Krishnadevaraya, was appointed governor of Madurai around 1529 CE. Assisted by Aryanatha Mudaliar, he established a centralized and effective administrative system. B. Gradual assertion of autonomy. Following the Battle of Talikota, 1565, and Vijayanagara's decline, the Madurai Nayaks began exercising independent authority, similar to their counterparts in Tanjore and Jinji. Maintained nominal allegiance to the distant Aravadu rulers but governed independently. Third, geography and strategic importance. Ruled over a vast and resource-rich territory, including Madurai, Tirunelveli, Dindigul, Ramanathapuram, and parts of modern Kerala. Controlled key trade routes between Tamil Nadu and Kerala, and coastal access via Tuticorin and Rameswaram. 4. Key rulers and achievements. A. Viswanatha Nayak, R. 1529-1564, founder of the dynasty, credited with creating the Palayam system of administration, strengthened the central authority and expanded Madurai's military. B. Tirumala Nayak, R. 1623-1659, the most illustrious Madurai Nayak ruler. Moved the capital back to Madurai from Tiruchirappalli, undertook grand construction projects including temples and palaces, enhanced diplomatic ties and repelled multiple invasions. C. Rani Mangamal, regent 1689-1704, one of the few women to rule in South India during this era, known for infrastructure development, roads, tanks, irrigation, maintained stability and promoted justice during her regency. V. Administration and governance. A. The Palayam system. Kingdom divided into 72 Palayams, each governed by Polygars, local chieftains under the Nayak king's suzerainty. While promoting decentralization, this also led to internal rebellions. B. Revenue and justice. Revenue derived from agriculture, temple lands, trade, and pilgrimages. Legal system based on Hindu Dharmashastra with local customs integrated. C. Capital cities, alternated between Madurai, Tiruchirappalli, and Dindigul based on political conditions. Each capital was fortified and developed into a regional power center. 6. Cultural and architectural contributions. A. Temple patronage. Extensively supported temple construction and renovation, especially the Meenakshi Amman Temple in Madurai. Introduced Gopurams, temple towers with vibrant sculptures and carvings. B. Palace architecture built the Tirumala Nayak Palace, an Indo-Saracenic marvel blending Dravidian and Islamic features. C. Art and literature supported both Tamil and Telugu literature. Encouraged poets, musicians, and scholars in their courts. The 7th. Religion and society. A. Hindu revivalism. Promoted Shaivism, Vaishnavism, and Bhakti traditions. Renovated ancient temples and created new pilgrimage networks. B. Social policies. Supported caste-based temple administration and religious endowments. Encouraged agrarian expansion through tank irrigation projects. Bebin. Foreign relations and warfare. A. Conflicts with other Nayaks. Regularly fought with Tanjore Nayaks and Jinji Nayaks over territory and prestige. Briefly united under Madurai leadership during times of external threats. B. European contacts. Trade relations with Portuguese, Dutch, and British traders on the eastern coast allowed European access to Tuticorin port in exchange for firearms and goods. C. Mughal and Arcot pressure. Faced growing threats from Mughal incursions under Aurangzeb's southern campaign. Ultimately succumbed to the Nawabs of Arcot, backed by British forces. 9. Decline and fall. A. Succession disputes and Polygar rebellions. Frequent succession crises weakened central authority. The Palayakaras Polygars grew increasingly autonomous and defiant. B. Invasion by Nawab of Arcot, 1736. Nawab Chanda Sahib, supported by Mughal authority, invaded and captured Madurai. The last Nayak ruler was defeated and exiled, marking the end of the dynasty. X. Legacy and historical significance. A. Architectural legacy. The Meenakshi Temple and Tirumala Nayak Palace remain architectural icons of Tamil Nadu. Introduced high gopurams, intricate mandapas, and elaborate sculptures. B. Administrative influence. The Palayam system was inherited by the British and later incorporated into the Zamindari system. The decentralized but loyal network of Palayams influenced South Indian feudal structures. C. Cultural memory. Rulers like Tirumala Nayak and Rani Mangamal are remembered as legendary figures in Tamil folk traditions. Their patronage helped revive and preserve Tamil language, arts, and Shaiva Vaishnava temple traditions. Or Torst. Conclusion. The Madurai Nayaks played a pivotal role in shaping South India's political and cultural history during the post-Vijayanagara period. Their ability to maintain order, foster culture, and construct enduring monuments amid political chaos is a testament to their leadership. Though their rule ended in conquest, their legacy lives on in the temples, palaces, and cultural consciousness of Tamil Nadu. Part 15. The Kingdom of Mysore. From Vijayanagara vassal to rising empire approx. 2,250 words. I. Introduction. From subordination to sovereignty. The Kingdom of Mysore, originally a vassal state under the Vijayanagara Empire, emerged as one of the most prominent and long-lasting successor states in South India. From a modest feudatory, it evolved into a formidable power under the Wodeyar dynasty, and later under Haider Ali and Tipu Sultan, influencing South Indian politics well into the British colonial era. 2. Geographic and strategic importance. Located on the southern Deccan plateau with the city of Mysore as its core. Fertile regions around the Kaveri River. Rich forests and hills provided both economic sustenance and natural defense. Bordered major powers like the Marathas, Nizam of Hyderabad, Malabar states, and later, European colonial outposts. 3. Early history and foundation. A. Origin as a Vijayanagara vassal. The Wodeyars were local chieftains, not a Prabhu, under the Vijayanagara Empire. In 1399, Yaduraya Wodeyar was installed by Vijayanagara rulers to govern the Mysore region. B. Gradual assertion of independence. With Vijayanagara's fall after 1565, the Wodeyars began consolidating power. By 1610, Raja Wodeyar I had expelled Vijayanagara representatives and declared independence, shifting the capital from Mysore to Srirangapatna. 4. The rise of the Wodeyars. A. Raja Wodeyar R. 1578-1617, first truly independent ruler of Mysore. Seized Srirangapatna from the Vijayanagara governor, signifying a shift in sovereignty. B. Cultural patronage supported Kannada and Sanskrit literature. Promoted temples and religious institutions, laying the foundation of Mysore's later cultural glory. V. Military expansion and regional consolidation. A. 17th century growth. Mysore expanded into Chamarajanagar, Coorg, and parts of Salem and Darwar, developed a semi-feudal military system supported by revenue from agriculture and trade. B. Defense and diplomacy, maintained a balance of power with Marathas, Kaladi Nayakas, and Mughals, cultivated diplomatic ties to avoid large-scale conflicts in the 17th century. 6. The rise of Haider Ali and Tipu Sultan a military coup and new leadership. By the mid-18th century, the Wodeyar dynasty had become ceremonial. Haider Ali, a military commander, took control of Mysore in 1761, initiating a new era. B. Haider Ali, R. 1761-1782, expanded Mysore territory dramatically, defeating Marathas, Nizam, and British forces. Introduced military reforms and centralized administration. Modernized the army with European-style infantry and artillery. C. Tipu Sultan, R. 1782-1799, continued his father's policies, earning the title Tiger of Mysore. Introduced state monopolies, coinage reforms, a calendar system, and embassies to France, Ottoman Empire, and Afghanistan. A passionate opponent of the British, he fought in all 4 Anglo-Mysore wars. 7th. Administration and economy. A. Centralized bureaucracy. Haider and Tipu introduced a centralized system with revenue collection, record-keeping, and military registers. Divided the state into provinces with governors directly responsible to the capital. B. Revenue and land reforms. Tipu implemented scientific land surveys and tried to fix equitable land taxes. State monopolies in pepper, sandalwood, silk, and sugarcane. C. Industrial and military modernization. Established state-run factories for cannon and musket production. Invited French engineers and artisans to aid in fortifications and gunpowder manufacturing. 8. Society and religion, a patronage of multiple faiths. Though a Muslim ruler, Tipu Sultan patronized Hindu temples, mathas, and religious festivals. Notable support for the Srirangam Temple, Sringeri Math, and others. B. Religious controversy. Accused by British and Maratha records of forced conversions and destruction of temples in rebellious regions. Historians debate the degree and intent, with some viewing Tipu as a pragmatist and others as a zealot. 9. Anglo-Mysore Wars and British encounters. A. First and Second Wars, 1767-1784, fought against the British East India Company with varying success. Treaty of Mangalore, 1784, ended the Second War in Mysore's favor. B. Third and Fourth Wars, 1790-1799. Tipu Sultan allied with France, alarming the British. After a long siege of Srirangapatna, Tipu was killed in 1799, marking the end of independent Mysore under his leadership. X. Restoration and British control. A. Wodeyar restoration. The British reinstated the Wodeyar dynasty in 1799 under Krishna Raja Wodeyar III as a puppet monarchy. A British resident oversaw affairs, and Mysore became a princely state under the East India Company. B. Commissioner rule, 1831-1881. After misgovernance allegations, the British assumed direct control of Mysore. Restored Wodeyar rule again in 1881 under the rendition of Mysore Act. 18. Cultural renaissance in Mysore. A. Mysore court as cultural center became a cradle of Carnatic music, Bharatanatyam, and Sanskrit and Kannada literature. Patronized writers like Mudana, Kuvempu, and scholars in philosophy and history. B. Modernization and development. Later Wodeyars, like Nalvadi Krishna Raja Wodeyar IV, supported railways, universities, and public health. Mysore earned praise as a model state under Indian princely rule. Theme: legacy and historical significance. A. Resistance to colonialism. Tipu Sultan remains a national icon for his anti-British resistance, technological foresight, and vision of sovereignty. Mysore's military innovations influenced other regional powers. B. Continuity of governance. The Wodeyars ruled until Indian independence in 1947, and their legacy continues in Karnataka's political history. C. Enduring cultural contributions. Mysore style in painting, architecture, and music persists. The city of Mysore remains a cultural hub, attracting tourists and scholars alike. Conclusion. The Kingdom of Mysore stands out among the successor states of Vijayanagara for its long duration, military prowess, and cultural patronage. From vassalage to independence and eventual subjugation under colonialism, Mysore's journey reflects the resilience and dynamism of South Indian polity in the post-Vijayanagara age. Part 16. The Rise of the Nawabs of Arcot and Northern Tamil Nadu's Transformation Approx. 2,250 words. I. Introduction. The Mughal imprint in the South. As Vijayanagara's successor states weakened and fragmented in the late 17th century, the Mughal Empire under Aurangzeb attempted to consolidate control over the Deccan. In northern Tamil Nadu, this resulted in the rise of the Nawabs of Arcot, also known as the Carnatic Nawabs. Though initially Mughal representatives, they soon established de facto independence and became pivotal figures in the 18th century Anglo-French colonial struggle. Deccan. Origins under Mughal patronage. A. Mughal campaigns in the Deccan. Aurangzeb's Deccan campaign, 1680-1707, aimed to subjugate the Deccan sultanates and Vijayanagara successor states. In 1692, Zulfikar Khan, one of Aurangzeb's generals, defeated remnants of the Jinji Nayaks and established Arcot as the administrative center. B. Foundation of the Nawabdom, 1692. The first Nawab of Arcot, Sadatullah Khan Normuristar, was appointed by the Mughal emperor as the Subadar of the Carnatic. Arcot was located in the heart of northern Tamil Nadu, near Chengalpattu, Vellore, and Chennai. Controlled access to key trade ports like Nagapattinam, Pondicherry, and Pulicat, making it attractive to European traders. For governance and administration. A. Revenue and land. Revenue collection followed the Mughal Mansabdari and Jagirdari system. Local revenue was extracted from zamindars, palayakarars, and temple lands. Trade levies and pilgrim taxes were imposed, especially around Chidambaram, Kanchipuram, and Srirangam. B. Military and fortifications. Maintained a professional army backed by cavalry and artillery. Fortified cities like Arcot, Vellore, and Jinji, some inherited from Vijayanagara and Nayaka predecessors. C. Cultural policy. As Shia Muslims, the Nawabs often patronized both Islamic and Hindu institutions. Persian remained the official language of administration. V. Nawabs of Arcot. Important rulers. A. Sadatullah Khan, Indiar 1710-1732. Strengthened the capital at Arcot, centralized administration, built mosques and madrasas while supporting Hindu temples. B. Dost Ali Khan, R. 1732-1740. Expanded influence into Madurai, Tanjore, and parts of Andhra, killed in battle against the Marathas, exposing Arcot's vulnerability. C. Anwaruddin Muhammad Khan, R. 744-749, appointed by the Nizam, but opposed by rival Chanda Sahib and French forces. Killed at Battle of Amber in 1749, which sparked the Carnatic Wars. 6. The Carnatic Wars and European rivalries. A. First Carnatic War, 1746-1748. Offshoot of European conflicts. French captured Madras, British retaliated. Arcot Nawabs remained caught in the middle. B. Second Carnatic War, 1749-1754. Chanda Sahib, supported by French, versus Muhammad Ali Khan Walaja, supported by British. Robert Clive's defense of Arcot, 1751, became a turning point in favor of the British. C. Third Carnatic War, 1756-1763. Part of the global 7 Years' War, ended with British victory, decline of French influence, and consolidation of the Nawab of Arcot as British ally. 7th. Arcot and British expansion. A. Muhammad Ali Khan Walaja, or Nibasanamprima, Tebisimbandasanambulia, became a puppet ally of the British. ruling nominally while East India Company dictated policy. Shifted residence to Chepauk Palace in Madras, symbolizing the transition from traditional rule to colonial subordination. B. Revenue agreements. Arcot incurred heavy debts due to military expenses. The British offered to collect taxes in return for loan repayments. This arrangement gave the British de facto control of Carnatic revenue and eventually, full administrative power. 8. Decline and dissolution. A. Final Nawabs and annexation. The last effective Nawab, Azim-ud-Dawla, ruled until 1801, when Lord Wellesley forced the Nawab to cede all powers. Arcot was annexed under the doctrine of subsidiary alliance, forming part of the Madras Presidency. B. Titular Nawabs, 1801-1855, continued to hold ceremonial titles and receive pensions. The British abolished the Nawabship after the Doctrine of Lapse in 1855. 9. Cultural and urban legacy. A. Chepauk Palace, first Indo-Saracenic building in India, symbol of colonial bureaucratic fusion, became a center for Nawabi administration under British oversight. B. Religious patronage. Nawabs built mosques, dargahs, and Sufi shrines, especially in Arcot, Madras, and Vellore. Also funded temple renovations and festivals, reflecting a multi-religious court culture. C. Persian influence. The Persian language influenced local dialects, dress, architecture, and education. Nawabi culture contributed to the evolution of Tamil Muslim identity. X. Relations with neighboring states. Maintained diplomatic ties with Hyderabad, Mysore, Tanjore, and Marathas. Relied heavily on British military support in external conflicts. Imonta. Conclusion. The Nawabs of Arcot represent a transitional phase in South Indian history, from Mughal provincial administration to British colonial subjugation. Though initially wielding independent power, their growing reliance on British support, internal rivalries, and European wars ultimately eroded their autonomy. Yet their political role, cultural impact, and military involvement in the Carnatic Wars make them central to understanding the collapse of traditional rule and the emergence of colonial South India. Part 17. The Polygar Chieftains and Resistance in Tamil Nadu and Southern Andhra. Approx. 250 words. I. Introduction. When feudal captains became rebel kings. While the Nayaka courts of Madurai, Tanjore, Jinji, and Keladi supplied the political glitter of the post-Vijayanagara world, thousands of square kilometers of rugged hill and scrub country were ruled not by kings but by polygars, also spelled Palayakarar in Tamil or Polygar in early English sources. Origin. The Palayam system had been formalized by Viswanatha Nayak in the 1530s. Each Palayam, feudal estate, received the right to collect land revenue and the obligation to maintain cavalry, foot soldiers, and fortifications for its overlord. Transformation. After 1670, the Nayak capitals declined, but the Palayams endured. By 1750, many chieftains acted as de facto sovereigns, levying custom duties, striking copper coins, and waging mini-wars with neighbors. Flashpoint. Their determination to defend local autonomy brought them into a century-long collision with first the Nawabs of Arcot, the Mughal British proxies of the north, and then the East India Company. Setting. Geography and strategic dispersion region. Modern districts, notable forts, capitals. Tirunelveli, Southern Tamil Nadu, Thuthukudi, Tirunelveli, Kanyakumari Panchalankurichi, Etayapuram, Nelkattumseval Madurai, Sivaganga Madurai, Ramanathapuram, Sivaganga, Kolangudi, Ramnatkongu Nadu Salem, Erode, Coimbatore, Karurodanilai, Kangayam, Kaveri Delta Palayams, ceded districts. Rayalasima, Southern Andhra Anantapur, Kurnool, Kadapa, Chittorgudi, Kurnool, Yerramalai Hill forts. The Western Ghats foothills, Palmyra forested dry plains, and granite outcrops supplied natural bastions. Each Palayam controlled cattle routes, tank-fed paddy fields, inland pearl fisheries, or passes linking the Tamil plains with Mysore and Travancore, all critical to armies and merchants alike. Third, polygar administration and military ecology. Hereditary chiefs, succession generally patrilineal within a Kondaikati or Kamavar Nayak clan, though usurpations were common. 2. Kaval Kadamai. Chiefs provided kaval, watch and ward, in return for fees on every grain stack, toddy shop, or caravan. Refusal invited cattle-lifting raids. 3. Warbands. Lightly armored matchlock infantry, hardy bowmen, lance cavalry, and stone-throwing slingers. Most muster rolls ran from 500 to 5,000 men, swollen in wartime by hill tribes and fugitives. 4. Hill forts, kotai. Dry stone walls, earthen glacis. Secret waterholes and rock-cut granaries allowed sieges to be endured for months. 4. Economy and society. Mixed cash kind revenue. Paddy, millet, and cotton were assessed in sheaves, kalams, or coin fanams. Artisanal clusters. Blacksmiths, weavers, salt panners, and pearl fishers paid occupational taxes. Temple endowments. Polygars sponsored village Aman shrines, Murugan hill temples, and Shaiva centers such as Tiruchendur, both for piety and legitimation. Caste clan networks. The chieftains' retinues mirrored the social ecology. Kalars, Maravars, Agamudayars, the Mukulathor in Tamil tracts. Valmiki's Boyas Polygars in Rayalaseema, the legendary Polygar leaders. Polygar Palayam years active distinctive achievements. Puli Thevarnel Katumzaval 1740-1767 first to refuse tribute to Arcot. Forged anti-Nawab League across Tirunelveli Veerapandia, Kataboman Panchalankurichi 1790. 1799 defied company's tax hike. Executed after heroic defense 1799. Umaithurai Panchalankurichi 1799. 1801 Kataboman S. brother. Escaped prison. Reignited revolt Marudhu Pandyar. Peria Chinna. Sivaganga 1780. 1801 issued Tiruchuji proclamation, calling for pan-Indian uprising. Executed at Tirupathur Tir and Chinnamalai Odanilai, Kongu, 1799-1805 allied with Tipu Sultan. Waged guerrilla war from Bargar Hills, Yaramala Nayakas, Rayalaseema Hill forts, 1800-1802 led broad Telugu rebellion, rallied 70+ forts against company, Sigis. The Polygar Wars, 1799-1805, A routes of conflict 1. Arrears tribute. The Nawab of Arcot farmed district revenues to the company. Polygars now faced cash tax demands instead of the older in-kind levies. 2. Loss of judicial autonomy. Company courts threatened their right to dispense kandadai, customary justice, and narasam, martial law. 3. Disbanding of armies. A 1792 treaty required chieftains to limit armed retainers. Many refused. B. First Polygar War, 1799, triggered by Kataboman's refusal to surrender arrears. Colonel James Bannerman led 5,000 sepoys, heavy artillery, stormed Panchalankurichi after 11-day cannonade. Kataboman captured at Kayathar and hanged on 16 Oct 1799, shocking the Tamil country. C. Second Polygar War, 1800-1801, sparked by Marudhu Pandyar's call for a general rising. Let every caste unite and expel the English that milk may mix with honey again. Rebel coalition. Sevasta Polygars, Tamil Telugu, 20,000 irregular. British response under Major General Arthur Wellesley, future Duke of Wellington. Rapid flying columns, scorched earth, and negotiated surrenders. Fall of Sivaganga, Oct 1801. Mass executions at Tirupathur. By Dec 1801, all major forts demolished. 10,000 muskets seized. D. Rayalaseema Rising, Taxus Kakweavir. Narsapa Nayaka of Harapanahali and others revived resistance, suppressed by Kolu. Thomas Munro using conciliatory Rayatwari terms to break hill alliances. 7th, British pacification and administrative reordering 1. Disarmament fort demolition. Over 100 forts razed. Possession of firearms without license criminalized. 2. Tamukam hostages. Leading Polygar families kept under surveillance in Madurai and Vellore. 3. Conversion to zamindars or riots. Loyal chiefs retained 1/4, 1/8 of their former estates as zamindari pensions. Most land went directly under Rayatwari, peasant-to-state settlement engineered by Munro, 1803-07. 4. Police revenue separation. Cabal duties transferred to company-appointed talukdars and later to a structured constabulary. Feat. Aftermath. Memory, myth, and modern politics. Folk epics ballads Kataboman Kathaikal, Puli Tevar Viragatha, and Telugu Veera Yaramala Kathalu kept the rebels alive in oral tradition. Patriotic icons, 20th century nationalist movement recast polygars as precursors to 1857. Statues erected at Kayathar, 1959, Panchalankurichi, 1974, and Sivaganga, 1980. Cinema Theatre, BR. Panthulu's film Veerapandya Kadaboman, 1959, popularized a fiery Tamil identity opposed to northern domination. Community assertion. The Mukalathur Federation draws pride from polygar ancestry. Annual Guru Pujas blend history with ritual hero worship. 9. Comparative perspective. Polygars and other successor powers. Feature Nayak, Courts Kaladi, Mysore polygar chieftains. Scale kingdoms, multi-district. Kingdoms microstates, 500 km Sauk. Revenue baseland tax, plus commerce land, plus trade monopolies land share, plus caval fees. Military standing armies, professional infantry rockets, irregular hill levies, culture temple cities, literature hybrid court culture oral epics, hero stones, fate absorbed by Marathas British subsidiary states direct suppression 1799-1805. Conclusion. The polygar world was the grassroots counter-narrative to imperial ambition in 18th century South India. Born of Vijayanagara Nayaka military decentralization, these chieftains fused agrarian lordship with rugged hill warfare to defend local autonomy for nearly 250 years. Their dramatic last stand against the East India Company, from Panchalankurichi's battered ramparts to the gallows at Kayathar, marks the first large-scale, region-wide armed resistance faced by the British in the south. Though ultimately subdued, the polygars bequeathed a legacy of martial pride, folk memory and anti-colonial symbolism that continues to animate Tamil and Telugu cultural identity today. Part 18. The Hyderabad Suba and the Nizam, a shadow empire in the Deccan approx. 2,250 words. Introduction. The Deccan's new arbiters. After the final collapse of the Vijayanagara Empire in the late 17th century, the Deccan was rapidly reorganized under new Muslim sovereigns aligned with or emerging from the Mughal Empire. Chief among them was the Nizam of Hyderabad, whose state originated as a Mughal Suba province, but evolved into a powerful and semi-independent polity. Legacy of the Mughals. Hyderabad was one of the richest Mughal provinces, strategically located between the Maratha frontier, the Carnatic, and the eastern coast. Transformation. In the chaos following Aurangzeb's death, 1707, Hyderabad became a de facto independent state under the Asaf Jahi dynasty, blending Persianate governance with Deccani military and cultural features. Tanu. The rise of the Nizamade. Founding under Asaf Jarpar's Chin Kilich Khan. Aspect detail. Name Kamaruddin Khan Siddiqui Bayafandi, Asaf Jahi. Period 1724-1748. Role former Mughal governor. Declared de facto independence in 1724 capital Aurangabad. Later shifted to Hyderabad city. Though loyal to the Mughal emperor in name, Asaf Jah exercised autonomous control, collecting revenue, managing diplomacy, and commanding armies. His authority stretched across much of the Deccan Plateau, encompassing Telangana, parts of Karnataka, Rayalaseema, and coastal Andhra. 3. Administration and political structure. A. Central Administration Department function. Diwan, Revenue Managed Land Tax. Jagir and Khalisa divisions. Bakshi, Military Paymaster. Oversaw the cavalry and artillery, Qazi Faujdar Judiciary and Policing Waqf. Board managed Islamic religious endowments. Persian remained the language of record. Marathi, Telugu, and Dakni Urdu were used in regional communication. Jagirdars and zamindars played a critical role in rural governance, especially in Telangana and Rayalaseema. B. Military organization. Strong cavalry and European-trained artillery by the 1770s. Employed Maratha mercenaries, Rohilla Afghans, and Deccani Pathans. Maintained strategic fortresses, Golconda, Nalgonda, Warangal, Adoni, and Bidar. 4. Society and culture under the Nizams. A. Cosmopolitan composition group role. Telugu-speaking Hindus landholders, Deshmukhs, bureaucrats, Peasantry, Persianate Muslims nobles, military officers, judges, Maratha soldiers, landlords, tax collectors, Deccani Muslims, urban artisans, Sufis, poets. The court celebrated Persian culture, hosting poets, scholars, and Sufis from Iran, Central Asia, and North India. Simultaneously, local Telugu traditions and temple patronage were preserved through grants and tolerance. B. Art and architecture. Charminar and Golconda Fort became symbols of Deccani Islamic grandeur. Patronage extended to Doctrine Urdu poetry, calligraphy, and manuscript illustration. Hyderabadi cuisine, attire, and music blended Turkish, Mughal, and South Indian elements. V. Relations with other powers. A. With the Mughals. Formally, the Nizam acknowledged the Mughal emperor as sovereign. In practice, he issued coinage, appointed governors, and conducted diplomacy independently. B. With the Marathas. Frequent conflict over revenue rights in Berar, Karnataka, and Telangana. Signed peace with Peshwas under terms that included chowth, 25% payment, and military neutrality at times. C. With the British. Early contacts were limited to Carnatic diplomacy and trade posts. Post-1750, as the British gained ground in Madras and Bengal, the Nizam sought their support against internal threats. 6. The Anglo-French struggles and the Nizam. The Deccan became a theater for European rivalry in the mid-18th century. The Carnatic Wars, 1744-1763. War role of the Nizam First Carnatic War remained neutral. Watch the French gain power in Arcot's Second Carnatic War backed the British against Chanda Sahib, French-backed Nawab. Third Carnatic War played British and French against each other for influence. Frenchman Dupleix and Englishman Robert Clive courted the Nizam's favor. The Battle of Plassey, 1757, and Wandiwash, 1760, sealed British dominance. B. Treaty of Masulipatam, 1768. The British promised to defend the Nizam in return for trading privileges and influence over the Carnatic and Northern Sirkars. 7th. The decline of Nizam authority and rise of British control. A. Loss of coastal Andhra, Northern Sirkars. In 1765, the Nizam granted the British revenue rights over the Sirkars, Machilipatnam, Guntur, etc., to ensure military support. B. Mysore and Tipu Sultan threat. Tipu Sultan's advances alarmed the Nizam. Allied with the British in the Third 1790 and Fourth Mysore Wars, 1799. C. Subsidiary Alliance, 1798-1800. Under Lord Wellesley, the Nizam signed a treaty that placed British troops in Hyderabad, disbanded his own French-trained army, made him a dependent ally with no right to independent diplomacy. Fate. Hyderabad in the 19th century, a princely state under surveillance. Though no longer sovereign, Hyderabad remained the largest princely state in India. Feature detail area. 82,000 square miles population, 1901. Over 11 million princely title, His Exalted Highness. Currency Hyderabad, Rupee language Urdu, official, Telugu, Marathi, Kannada, spoken, British presence resident stationed in Hyderabad. Cantonments established a formal British resident supervised policy decisions. Railways, telegraphs, and canals expanded under joint Indo-British initiatives. Hyderabad became a model state for urban planning and industrialization by 1900. 9. Social policy and legacy. A. Religious harmony and conflicts. Nizam supported Hindu temples and festivals, including Varalakshmi Vratham and Dasara. But communal tension arose in the late 19th century, particularly with the rise of Arya Samaj and Muslim revivalist movements. B. Education and welfare. Osmania University, founded in 1918, one of India's first to offer higher education in a non-English medium, Urdu. State-sponsored hospitals, law courts, and revenue reforms laid modern foundations. C. Economic development. Hyderabad housed cotton mills, metalworks, and banking houses. The city emerged as a hub for pearls, diamonds, and bidraware, metal handicrafts. X long-term impact and memory. The Nizam state lasted until Operation Polo, 1948, when the Indian Army annexed Hyderabad. Yet the Hyderabadi identity, Muslim and Hindu, Telugu and Urdu, courtly and mercantile, remains distinct. Even after its political absorption, Hyderabad continued to influence education, arts, and interreligious models of coexistence across South India. Conclusion. The Hyderabad Nizamate represents a unique continuity from the Mughal imperial order into the age of colonial dominance. Emerging from the collapse of Vijayanagara and the Mughal southward surge, the Asaf Jahi dynasty built an administrative, military, and cultural order that outlasted multiple regimes. While sovereignty was gradually eroded by British power, the Nizams adapted, negotiated, and modernized their court, ensuring that Hyderabad remained a Deccan metropole of lasting significance. Part 19. The Kingdom of Mysore, from Wodeyars to Tipu Sultan approx. 2,250 words. Introduction. Mysore's strategic rebirth. As the Vijayanagara Empire dissolved in the late 17th century, several successor powers rose in the southern Deccan. One of the most resilient and transformative was the Kingdom of Mysore, ruled first by the Wodeyar dynasty, and later by Haider Ali and Tipu Sultan, who radically militarized and modernized the state. Mysore's transformation from a small regional kingdom into a powerful military state directly challenged both the Marathas and the British, making it a critical player in 18th century South Indian politics. 2. The early Wodeyar dynasty, 1399 to 1761, origins and role under Vijayanagara. The Wodeyars were originally vassals of the Vijayanagara Empire, governing the region around Mysore. As Vijayanagara authority waned, they slowly asserted independence by the mid-17th century. Expansion of Mysore Kingdom ruler contributions. Chika Devaraja Wodeyar R. 1673 to 1704. Centralized administration, created standing army. Revenue reforms Kanthirava Narasaraja. I built alliances with Marathas and controlled Srirangapatna. By 1700, the kingdom had extended over parts of southern Karnataka and western Tamil Nadu. The Wodeyars built fortifications, temples, and irrigation systems, blending royal Hindu traditions with emerging military needs. 3rd. Haider Ali. The rise of the Sultanate in Mysore background and early career. Haider Ali, 1720-1782, was born into a Muslim family of modest military background. Rose through the Mysorean army ranks due to tactical brilliance and loyalty. Year milestone. 1755 became commander-in-chief of Mysore. 1761 deposed the Wodeyar ruler. Assumed de facto control. Governance and military reforms. Policy area reforms by Haider Ali. Army introduced European drill, rocket artillery, cavalry reorganization. Administration retained Hindu bureaucrats, decentralized tax collection, industry state-sponsored arms factories, saltpeter and textile production. Diplomacy. Allied with French, clashed with Marathas, negotiated with Mughals. He retained the Wodeyars as nominal monarchs but ruled independently. Fortified Srirangapatna as the capital and military base. Tipu Sultan, the Tiger of Mysore A. Early life and succession. Tipu Sultan, 1750-1799, was Haider Ali's son, well-educated in Persian, Arabic, science, and military strategy. Succeeded Haider Ali in 1782 during the Second Anglo-Mysore War. Modernization and reforms. Sector reforms. Military expanded rocket artillery, trained infantry in French tactics, economy state control over trade. Foreign factories in Mangalore. Coinage system technology embraced gunpowder science, shipbuilding, sericulture, education, madrasa reforms. Invited scholars from Arabia and Iran. Called himself Sultan Fateh Ali Khan Bahadur, asserting full kingship. Sought alliances with France, Ottoman Empire, and Afghanistan against the British. With the 4 Anglo-Mysore Wars, First Anglo-Mysore War, 1767-1769, led by Haider Ali against the British and Marathas, ended with Treaty of Madras. British recognized Mysore's independence. Second Anglo-Mysore War, 1780-1784, Tipu Sultan emerged as co-commander. Notable for the siege of Arcot and British losses, Treaty of Mangalore 1784 signed, a rare Indian victory. Third Anglo-Mysore War 1790-1792, British allied with Marathas and Nizam of Hyderabad. Tipu lost significant territory, ceded half of Mysore and paid large indemnity. Treaty of Seringapatam signed. D. Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, 1799. Tipu Sultan died defending Srirangapatna, marked the end of Muslim rule in Mysore and Mysore's challenge to the British. 6. Society and governance under Haider and Tipu. A. Multi-ethnic administration. Retained Hindu ministers, Maratha officers, Persian scribes. Promoted Dakni Urdu, Kannada, and Persian in bureaucracy. B. Religious policy. Controversial legacy. While Tipu granted land to temples and patronized matas, his treatment of certain regions, e.g., Malabar Hindus and Korgs, was harsh. Declared himself a Padshah of the faithful, but engaged with Hindu leaders diplomatically. 7. Mysore rocketry, a scientific legacy. Iron-cased rockets used with explosive tips, ahead of European tech. Tipu maintained a rocket corps of over 5,000 men. Captured rockets were studied by the British and later influenced Congreve rockets in Europe. 8. Foreign policy and anti-colonial diplomacy, ally purpose. French received artillery officers, gunpowder tech advisors. Ottoman Turks shared religious and political aspirations. Afghans sought joint campaign against British Mughals, symbolic recognition. Coins bore Mughal titles. Sent emissaries to Louis XVI, Napoleon Bonaparte, and the Ottoman court. Envisioned an anti-British coalition in India and abroad. Nice legacy of the Mysore Sultanate. A. Impact on British policy. Tipu's resistance prompted the subsidiary alliance system. Sparked British paranoia about French influence in India. B. Cultural and technological influence. Contributions to military science, rocketry, and urban planning. Srirangapatna became a center of architecture, silk, and Islamic scholarship. C. Post-Tipu Mysore. British restored the Wodeyars under suzerainty. Mysore became a model princely state, later known for progressive policies under Krishna Raja Wodeyar IV. X. Tipu Sultan in historical memory. Celebrated in some quarters as a freedom fighter and visionary reformer. Criticized by others for religious intolerance and harsh military campaigns. Inspires debates around nationalism, identity, and resistance in modern India. Conclusion. The Kingdom of Mysore, especially under Haider Ali and Tipu Sultan, represents one of the most formidable challenges to European colonial expansion in the subcontinent. From a regional monarchy, it evolved into a dynamic sultanate that embraced modern military technology, centralized governance, and foreign diplomacy. Despite its eventual defeat, Mysore's legacy lives on in India's scientific, political, and cultural history. Part 20. Maratha Legacy and the Fragmentation of Deccan Power Centers, 18th–19th century, approx. 2,250 words. I. Introduction. The twilight of post-Vijayanagara India. As the Vijayanagara Empire faded into history, southern India underwent vast political changes. The Marathas rose to fill the vacuum, creating a confederacy that spread across the Deccan. However, by the late 18th and 19th centuries, even Maratha supremacy began to fragment under internal disputes and British imperialism. This period saw complex regional politics, successor dynasties, and the final dissolution of indigenous empires before colonial dominance. B-Secu. The Maratha Confederacy. Structure and expansion. A. Rise and structure. The Maratha Empire under Shivaji laid the foundations for Hindu sovereignty in the Deccan. After his death, 1680, the Confederacy developed, led by the Peshwas of Pune. Consisted of semi-autonomous chiefs like the Gaekwads, Baroda, Holkars, Indore, Scindias, Gwalior, and Bhonsles, Nagpur. B. Governance. The Maratha polity was decentralized, lacking a single imperial structure. They collected Chauth and Sardeshmukhi taxes across vast territories, including parts of South India. The third. Maratha presence in South India. A. Conquests and territories. The Marathas extended control into Tanjore, Jinji, and parts of Mysore. By the early 18th century, the Bhonsles of Tanjore had established a principality. Maratha clan's southern influence. Bhonsles of Tanjore controlled Tamil Nadu's Kaveri Delta. Sambhaji II, Kolhapur, contested for Maratha supremacy. Peshwas campaigned in Karnataka and Andhra. B. Key battles. Fought wars against the Nizam of Hyderabad, Mysore Sultanate, and British East India Company. played a key role in Third and Fourth Anglo-Mysore Wars. 4. Fragmentation of the Maratha Confederacy, internal rivalries. After Peshwa Balaji Baji Rao's death, 1761, the Confederacy fractured. Holkars and Scindias became rivals. Nagpur and Baroda asserted autonomy. B. British interference. British policy of divide and rule exacerbated conflicts. Anglo-Maratha Wars. First War, 1775-82, inconclusive. Second War, 1803-05. British secured key victories at Assaye and Laswari. Third War, 1817-18. Complete Maratha defeat. End of Peshwa power. V. The Maratha legacy in southern India. A. Bhonsles of Tanjore, a significant Maratha dynasty in Tamil Nadu. Maratha legacy, southern India. Bhonsles of Tanjore, significant dynasty, Tamil Nadu. Blended Maratha and Tamil culture. Patronized Bharatanatyam literature and temples. Annexed by the British in 1855 under the Doctrine of Lapse. B. Influence in arts and culture. Field Maratha contribution. Literature Marathi Tamil poetry. Court histories religion patronage of Shaivism and Vaishnavism. Architecture temples, forts, and palace architecture in Tanjore. 6. The rise of new regional centers, late 18th-19th century. A. Hyderabad under the Nizams. Originally a Mughal Suba, it became independent under Nizam-ul-Mulk, a Saf Jabur. Dominated the eastern Deccan and Telangana region. Maintained autonomy by aligning with the British in later years. B. Travancore and Cochin. Travancore under Marthandavarma defeated the Dutch, 1741, and built a strong state. Aligned with the British and became a model princely state. Promoted education, social reform, and trade. C. Other successor states' state key ruler contribution. Arcot Nawabs Muhammad Ali Khan supported British in Carnatic Wars. Sivaganga Rani Velu. Nachiyar early resistance against colonial rule. Cochin Rama Varma continued local governance under British suzerainty. 7. British consolidation and end of indigenous powers. A. Subsidiary alliance system. Introduced by Lord Wellesley, it neutralized independent rule. Local kings retained titles but ceded real power to British residents. B. Doctrine of Lapse used to annex states without direct heirs. Applied to Tanjore, Satara, and Jhansi. C. Indian Rebellion of 1857 and aftermath. Though largely northern in scale, southern states were monitored closely. Post-1858. The British Crown directly ruled India, ending all formal Indian sovereignties. Bavind. Lasting impact of successor states. A. Continuity of culture and language. Many successor states patronized local languages. Kannada, in Mysore Telugu, in Hyderabad. Tamil in Tanjore B. Preservation of indigenous rule. While weakened, native courts preserved elements of pre-colonial governance. Wodeyars of Mysore, Nizams of Hyderabad, and Travancore kings continued ruling under British supervision. C. Transition to modern India. After independence, 1947, princely states were integrated. Hyderabad annexed in Operation Polo, 1948. Mysore and Travancore merged into the Indian Union. Conclusion: a legacy of resilience and adaptation. The period following the fall of the Vijayanagara Empire was not one of cultural decline, but of political reinvention and resilience. Successor states like Mysore, Tanjore, Hyderabad, and Travancore navigated the shifting sands of power, sometimes aligning with foreign powers, at other times resisting them. Despite eventual colonial domination, these polities preserved South India's diverse traditions, laid the foundation for modern administrative institutions, and inspired future generations through figures like Tipu Sultan, Shivaji, Rani Velu Nachiyar, and Marthandavarma. The legacy of the successor states is, thus, an essential chapter in Indian history, reflecting the dynamism, adaptability, and courage of a region striving to preserve autonomy in the face of global imperialism.